to order. Thank you all for coming out tonight. As you may know, we don't have a quorum tonight. Jerry is out of town. So we're not going to take any votes on anything tonight. We'll still run the meeting just like we normally do, ask questions as they're doing their budget presentations. We're just not voting.
Because these two guys are
That's all their fault. No.
not official.
Not that we can't get anyone together.
Not enough people.
Yeah, there's not enough appointed members. Is appointed the right word?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because it's a 9-member committee. Right now, we have 5 official, and Jerry's not here, and you need a majority to be a quorum, so you need 5. And I spoke to the town moderator earlier today, and so he will be calling, he's named his subcommittee that appoints new members, so both of your names are before his committee, and then they will make whatever appointments they're going to make at that point.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do we have a timeline on that?
But worst case, I think we have the special town meeting coming up where we'll be there with the selectmen. And if we need to, didn't we talk about maybe doing an appointment then? If necessary. So there's still a couple of options open, but it should be within the next month.
Yeah, usually that would be if we couldn't name, because we couldn't name the subcommittee because he couldn't get enough people to serve. But if he has enough people to serve, we need to follow the bylaws. So
Oh, okay.
my guess is, my guess is that he'll get that committee to set a date and get, excuse me, I don't know how many people applied. I know obviously these 2, so they'll make whatever appointments he's going to make at that point.
Okay. See, we're not going to accept the meeting minutes for review, again, because we don't have a quorum. But before we get into the budgets, I wanted to talk about capital budget real quick. And that's when, for Scott and Melissa, it's when the department heads present what their infrastructure needs are or their big purchases. That's when the highway department puts in for their trucks and ambulances, fire trucks, whatnot. And so this committee meets during the day. And previously, it had always been the 3, are they officers? Is that what we call them? But JP wasn't able to go previously during the day, so Mo had been appointed in his place. So the date has been set, and the email was sent out to Jerry, Mo, and myself. But if the committee wants to appoint different members, we can easily switch that up. So
What day is it?
So
Is it only one?
7th, is it?
Yeah, it was March
4th.
27th.
7th.
Is it only one day?
No, then it's the following week as well. It's usually the same date, same time.
So, part of the issue was that, in fairness to the department heads who are going to be presenting, we have to give them ample opportunity to be able to put their stuff together and get it in. And we have to try to coordinate 10 people's schedules, which is never easy. And so we knew Jerry wasn't going to be here this evening because she was going to be away, which means you couldn't vote on it tonight, which means you're going to lose a whole nother week. So I think, an executive decision made a lot of sense.
But we can change that up,
2 p.m. or 3.
3 p.m.
She was having trouble getting through to me.
Yeah, I got
Never
emails
did
bounced
get
back.
the,
Yours bounced back to me as well.
Yeah, the emails aren't going through to you.
what's that?
The email I sent you was bounced back. It says your email box doesn't exist or is full.
See, I got yours for the meeting.
Didn't I email? Well, maybe you didn't get that special email. I don't know. I don't
I
remember
didn't
what
get
else I
this
emailed
one.
you.
But I'm getting emails, so
All right.
either you get them or you don't, right?
Right.
Your email is still, Elf is really cute at Comcast.net, right?
That's me.
No, it's not.
I'll write that down.
I'm so lying.
I'll have Chris try another test, I guess.
Okay. But yeah, no, it bounced back to me as well.
You have a selective mailbox.
Maybe it bounces back, not going to spam.
Correct. My guess is if it's coming through sometimes and it's not other times, my guess is you might be near capacity, and maybe what you're doing is as you delete some emails, one will come through, and then when you're not deleting it, it's full, and the others are bouncing back. It's the only thing I could guess.
You might have to go online to the website, the Comcast email, and delete them off their server.
Got hundreds on there.
That might be why.
But I've had as many as 3,000
I don't know.
and they're still coming in.
Well, not all of them.
I'll check it out, see what's going on.
All right, well, is there anyone else who was really interested and wanted to be on the capital budget committee?
I would, but I really can't during the day, so.
Okay.
Still in learning mode, maybe next year.
All right, then David is going to present until we have the Council on Aging here.
Sure.
Let's
So what
start
I'll do
going
is-
through your budgets.
I'm gonna do the town accountant budget, and if time warrants, then I'm gonna skip down to the 9:05, so we don't have to be here at 9. And all of these are really small and quite frankly, fairly simple.
Yeah.
So the town accountant budget is account number 1350. It is basically level funded on every item except for two. The first one is in reference to the salary of our town accountant, and the one, next one is the clerical salary, which is the, tied to a collective bargaining agreement. The only thing that I would ask people to pay attention to is that you will see the FY19 request for what we're going to pay our consultant is about $8,000 less than we paid our person 3 years ago, and we're not paying this person benefits. So I think we did a really good job of bringing somebody in where we're saving the taxpayer a considerable amount of money. We're also not paying benefits because this person is retired, and quite frankly, she's retired from the Department of Revenue, and she oversaw 21 to 30 towns on an annual basis. So she really knows her stuff. She's great, and we're saving money with it. So I think that was a really good
She
fit.
works for 25 or 30 towns?
She used to when she was with the Department of Revenue. She oversaw, yeah, she signed off on all our budgets. So, so she really understands accounting. So it's been a great find for us.
Municipal county.
Yes, exactly. So it's been a great find for us, and it saves us money.
And she's part-time, isn't she?
She is. She only works 2 to 3 days a week. Just we rotate back and forth between the 2 and the 3.
Now, I realize you're not the department head for the accountants department, but what do you see as a need over the next 3 years?
I couldn't answer the question on her behalf, except for what everybody else should be saying is space. The town accountant is required to keep hard copies of our contracts, and she just has the next door office space, and we really don't have other space throughout the entire building. We run into the same thing in the selectman's office because we license, so we have to keep all of those hard copies. But all 100% contracts that we sign, she has to maintain, and she has to maintain for 7 years or 10 years, depending on what they are, in some cases longer. So it's just a lot of paperwork. And so until either the legislature changes it where they allow for digitalized saving, like through PDFs, we're in desperate need of space. So I can immediately identify that as a need.
Now, I know we've committed to keeping this building for the town hall.
Oh, yeah.
Has there been discussion on how it could be expanded?
Yeah, so what I would like to do, because I think it's the most cost-effective approach, is that we have a very large attic. Think of how big this building is, the width and the length, and that's basically all one wide open room, which I am told also has about 8 to 10 foot ceilings.
Oh, wow.
Now, it's all exposed. There's a couple of trusses built in because it's an old building. It's not just open like it should be. And, back in the 1800s, they didn't know, they didn't have the engineers, so they just threw a whole bunch of beams up to be safe. So it would require some engineering because you'd have to take some of those down, put a floor in. But the point is that it doesn't have to be extravagant, to just.
For files.
Exactly.
And there's no requirement for fireproof or any of that.
No, it would be as fireproof up there as it is here.
Yeah, I know, I was just thinking that, I said,
What
wow.
You know.
What about off-site storage,
Yeah.
like, what's the off-site?
Iron Mountain.
Yeah, Iron
Yeah.
Mountain.
So we actually have we had some materials for the town clerk's office at Iron Mountain, but isn't that still digital? I mean, that's not hard copy, is it?
No, they take
No,
paper.
they
take
take
it?
paper.
Then I guess the only thing is that we just have to be able to fund it.
Yeah.
I am positive we have some documents with Iron Mountain through the town clerk's office.
Yeah.
I don't know how many, but I'm positive we have some because I see a small bill come through every single year for that.
Yeah, it might be good to price it out and just see how much it would be to have them do some off-site storage and like keep 3 years here and 4 there, you know, whatever
Right.
the case may be.
Because it's pretty easy to retrieve.
Yeah.
That's like one of the things I did at the bank was archiving and doing all that stuff. And they log, they have, you know, barcodes on everything, and you give them a note, and the truck comes and they'll deliver the stuff, and you can review it and then send it back.
Yeah.
Any idea how they price it out?
No, because I never saw the contracts.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
see
The
the
contracts
bills
at the
either.
bank were huge.
I'm sure. But that's going to be an ongoing need, because the only other place that we have is downstairs in the basement, and the basement is not climate controlled.
Yeah.
And so the same thing in the police department, but I probably shouldn't say this while we're on TV, but, you know, I'm trying to answer your question, is that payroll records, for example, are still required to be saved in perpetuity. So if you want to know what a police officer made in 1888, you can do a public records request, and in theory, we're supposed to have it. I've been over there with the police chief. He has shown me what we have, and I am not BSing you. As soon as you touch it, they fall apart, because it's not climate controlled.
It has
So-
to be a, I'm sorry to interrupt, does it have to be a paper copy?
Yeah.
Is it's not something that can be
Where did that
scanned
come from?
anywhere? Wow.
1800s.
Well,
They haven't
since
changed the law.
they've never changed the law.
Right.
So, you know, so the point is that we are in desperate need. All of these departments, although they may have other individual specific needs, I am positive that space is a real problem. And so I'm thinking, although Iron Mountain might be a really good alternative, and I don't know what the number would be, I'm just throwing out a number, but for $50,000, my guess is we can renovate the entire attic, have immediate access to it. If you ever had a public records request, you walk upstairs and you get it. And this is a very large building, which would provide a lot of storage space. And all I'm thinking is that someone like Marilyn uses over at the Council on Aging, a Jim Henderson type person. We're very, very fortunate in West Bridgewater because we have a lot of tradespeople that are in town that are very, very handy. And so we would be able to build a lot of shelving, just 2x4, 2x6 type shelving, and just use boxes and just store the boxes, throw a heater and an AC up there, plywood. I don't care about carpet. We certainly don't need hardwood floors, but just a base subfloor and just put shelving up.
Yeah, I mean, you would have to think about the weight, though. I mean, all those records and things would be a lot of weight, so you would have to probably have an engineer.
Exactly.
And then you might want to even, I don't know, I don't know how much it would cost to invest in, like, you know, file cabinets and stack them rather than box. I mean, I don't know how much that would be. I guess you'd have to price it all out and see.
Yep. But anyway, that would be the answer to your question. Thank you.
Does anyone have any other questions on this budget?
Thank you.
Hearing none? Thank you, David. We're gonna have Marilyn come up next. Marilyn is the department head of the Council on Aging.
Hey, Marilyn.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good.
Long weekend, but we made it.
Yeah.
Let's see, the Council on Aging is
Do you
5410.
guys have generators there? Is that?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's good. I saw some stuff online that different ones were closed, and I thought, why was that? They must have been-
We had some folks come in from Easton and East Bridgewater, and they were just freezing.
Yeah,
Come on in.
yeah,
I've had to use the Council on Aging during a snowstorm before when my daughter was an infant.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was 2011.
Yes. That
That was that storm.
that was that storm.
Jerry talked with me about working there. We had never met before.
Oh. Well, there you go.
There you go.
All right, let's talk about your budget and what's changed.
Pretty much everything stay level.
Okay.
I did, in my request, we're finding that our floors take a beating in the winter. And previously, we've just had them stripped waxed once a year in July. And we're finding that the winters take a beating. They're a mess. So I'd like to have that done 2 times a year, in the summer and after the big part of the winter. So I've asked for $2,000 to cover the cost for that.
Where is that?
I'm sorry, I'm working off of the
Gotta be,
the extra
maintenance.
things. Sorry, yes, it is under maintenance. These items would be really the only changes that I've asked for.
Okay, you're talking about property maintenance, janitorial, increasing that by $2,000.
Correct.
The other one, we have equipment repairs and maintenance. You're looking for an increase of 1,000?
Yes, that's funding due to a generator service not under contract and equipment failure. The building and its equipment are getting old. And we're anticipating, we had issues with the septic system alarms this year. We've had issues with the generator, of course, to the tune of like $9,000 for the last year and a half, putting out money for that. And we're just hoping, just having a little cushion in there in case something else goes awry. We also had AC issues that cost us some money in the attic this past summer.
Oh, goodness.
I
Okay.
don't think of it as being an old building.
I know.
I know it. I
I know
don't.
you wouldn't, but it gets a lot of use.
Yes,
So.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
What's the salaries of transportation drivers? Is that, that looks like a kind of a big increase. Are we changing something there?
So this is an increase needed for additional service. So you're looking to increase service?
Okay, I'm not too sure what page you're looking at here.
So I'm looking at the front page, the third, these don't have like lines on them, line numbers.
Which one?
here.
It's the
Salaries
third
of
down.
transportation.
And outreach. That
Outreach.
includes the outreach
Okay.
staff. We have one outreach that works well, she works full-time. She's considered full-time with the hours that she puts in. And then we have somebody else that does outreach work as well. The drivers have not changed all that much, except for the 2.5% that we've put in there for.
So we're adding additional outreach, is that what you're?
Nope,
Oh,
nope,
okay.
it's just the increases for, so the actual, I don't have a calculator with me.
What page you're on?
I know, I'm on the same page you were on.
Are we talking about the salaries of the transportation driver and
Yeah.
outreach, the third line, the one that's increased almost $10,000?
Yeah,
So what's the
Okay,
increase then?
let's
That's
look
what
at
I was
this.
trying to
What is-
figure out.
yeah, what is the number?
We
it
don't
doesn't have a number, that's.
5119 for me,
5119, other salaries,
correct.
which is salaries of the transportation driver, the third line, right?
And outreach.
So your level fund budget,
So that includes, that line item is actually other salaries. So it also includes our kitchen manager and kitchen assistant, the van drivers, Meals on Wheels driver, and the supportive care workers as well.
So are these contractual increases
And,
then?
and that line item has gone up $10,000 because let's see. Other salaries on this page would explain is a $5,000 increase there due to the fact that we're looking to add 2 evening programs, and we have a Saturday program now and 1 evening program, and we're stretching our staff pretty thin at this point.
So what
And
do you
that
have
would be
right now?
a facilitator to come in and open and then lock up after setting up for these 2 programs that we're asking.
so are you looking to increase program? You currently have one night during the week and on Saturdays?
We're looking to put a yoga class and a Zumba Gold class, 2 evenings, one on each evening. And then we already have a Saturday program and a Tuesday night program. And in the way we're running it now is I go in on Saturdays at 7:15 and I work until noontime. And then I have somebody that stays and goes to the Tuesday night and stays. And like I said, we're stretching ourselves pretty thin.
What
That's only if,
confuses me is when we talk level funding.
Right, because I thought the point,
That's the mandate is level funding.
right, to provide the same service. What's it going to cost to provide the same services? So then you're looking for an increase on top of that to add these other services.
well, the level fund budget impacts the page. The increase needed for level service is listed, and then the next column is additional increase needed for additional services. So that salary is not included on the level funded, it's under the additional increase needed.
Right.
But I'm not sure how this ties back to the $10,000 increase in the salaries of the driver and outreach. So I'm stuck on where
You're
is
stuck
this-
there.
What is this $10,000 change?
Well, 5 of it,
5 is this, okay.
5 is that, and then we did the 2.5% increase for everybody else. That's under that category.
Which wouldn't be very much money, seeing that it's, what was last year, 63,000. 2.5% on that's only, what, 1,500? So what are the other increases?
Okay, let me look at this and,
Well, is it built in with the increased service number? Is that what we're ignoring?
Because she wants to add the $7,500 from the,
Right, but those are in different lines.
Different lines.
right.
So if you look at the salaries of transportation driver and outreach, she's looking for an increase year over year of 9,974.
So 5,000 is here.
Where's the rest?
And then what'd you say, 1,500 for the 2.5%?
Probably about
I have it, I found some of it, I found $3,000 of it. Something I omitted to put on the level funded budget impacts, and I apologize for that.
That's okay.
It's on the personnel compensation calculation page, and it's number 15. And she's an additional supportive care assistant. That program is growing, and I neglected to put it on this page, so that would be $3,000 more of that, and then the rest of it probably would be the increases.
So there's a $3,000 increase for what?
Additional staff?
Jean, on
This line 15.
line 15, on the personnel compensation.
So you're increasing her hours, you're increasing her
Would
service?
be a new hire, and I forgot to put her on the
So she doesn't
the
work.
level fund budget impact page, should have also had her listed.
So she
or that
doesn't work there
position.
at all now?
She's there, but she's volunteering her
Oh,
time.
I see.
So that would be to increase service still?
Increased service for the supportive care program. So the daycare program would have the staffing necessary to have 3 or 4 more people come in. And we do have a waiting list at this
What
point.
is supportive care?
It's an adult daycare program for seniors that are living, or not maybe even living with their children. Some of them are still living with their spouses that just need social impact. And let's say my husband isn't working and I'm working full-time, and he just can't stay home alone, nor could he drive.
How do you determine?
We interview each one of them, and some of them go to OCES for services as well. Some of them have slight level 1 dementia,
Yeah.
Alzheimer's, that type of thing, and they just can't be left alone. So they bring them to us, and that part of that is granted as well to run that
I was
program.
gonna say that, doesn't the state support?
Old Colony Elder Services. There's private pay, and then there's the Old Colony Elder Services, and there's, they pay for those that qualify.
So this only covers a portion of it, huh?
And you have a waiting list, so you...
We have a waiting list right
How
now.
many people do you support right now?
Right now, we have 10, and
10.
we have 2 workers. It's supposed to be 4 clients to 1 person, so.
So you're trying to
we're
add
getting to the
enough
point
people
where we
for
need to
10
have
people.
enough
more than 10 people.
correct.
But
Or
the
to even
ratios are
maintain
mandated.
the 10 or
The
11.
ratios of caretakers to individuals are mandated by the state, aren't
Yes.
they?
Yes.
And these are all West Bridgewater residents?
Yes. Oh, we have one Bridgewater. She's unfortunately probably not coming back to us. She took L, so one Bridgewater right over the line.
All senior centers have this program?
No. You have to, there are certain criteria to qualify through the state to run the program.
So are you finding that you need more staff to support the community? That's what it sounds like you're saying, that the needs of the community have increased.
Yes. A lot, and the programs that I was talking about earlier regarding the evening programs, I have a lot of seniors that have come to me, why can't we have some of these programs? So, because like me, I'm working full-time, and a lot of seniors are working full-time after the age of 60, 65, 70 in some cases. And they're looking to have these programs available to them.
So these programs like yoga and Zumba, do you charge anything for them, or people in the town can come and it's no charge?
There is a charge. There is a charge, but that money doesn't come to me.
Goes to
We're
general.
providing a service that goes to the instructor.
Oh, the instructor.
Yeah.
This supportive care again, let's assume half the people came from Easton. Would it matter?
No,
I mean, in other words, is the town supporting people from another town? Or
no. We have one person for Bridgewater.
Right.
We try very hard to keep them within our own community.
Right.
But if there's a need across the town line that close, and in this particular case, is somebody that works for the town, whose parent needed some help, and how can you say no?
But you know what I'm driving
Yes, I
at,
do.
that we-
I know exactly where you're
Yeah, should
heading.
we be
Yeah.
It should
subsidizing
be.
other towns?
It should
Right.
be.
Yeah,
It should
yeah,
be.
yeah,
Yeah.
Exactly.
It should be for West Bridgewater. I understand that.
But you can't discriminate.
I can't. And it's like over the weekend with a storm.
Well, that's.
Check IDs before you let them
Yeah,
come in.
But I would
You're
think
from
going
Bridgewater, you
forward,
can't come in.
You'd want this program for West Bridgewater
Yes,
residents.
and for the most part, that's happening. This one
Yeah.
particular case is just a circumstance that we couldn't,
Couldn't ignore, right? Okay.
yeah.
All right,
And
so
I
I think-
apologize for eliminating that line
No,
item
that's
on
okay,
my,
We
uh,
figured it out, that's
As
good.
long as
yeah,
we
we
figured
did,
it
we
out.
figured it out. Phew.
Okay, so that's the increase in the salaries of transport. Now, is there a change in transportation driver?
No,
Or
we
that
have,
just
we still
happens
have
to be
two
the
drivers,
number?
yeah.
Okay.
And it just happened to be not enough space on that line, apparently, to put everything on there.
That's okay.
So the $4,000 increase on the property maintenance, what is that?
Okay.
Now, I can see 2,000.
Oh, the $2,000 is increased for level service because two of the contracts have gone up.
Okay.
Just, not a whole lot, but just enough, and so that would cover that increase. And then for additional services needed is another $2,000 for the floors in the middle of the winter, or just after winter.
Okay, I understand
It's a
that.
good idea, the way that's split out like that. I wish everyone did that.
They're supposed to this year, I think. We all got these,
Oh, you did?
yes.
The $500 increase on dues and meetings?
Right, the budget,
$5,000 increase.
let's see, dues and meetings, it was,
It's $1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 1,000. So 500 is for level service, 500 is to increase for an additional service.
Correct.
What's that?
that is educational purposes for outreach. There's a lot of programs out there for Wendy to attend to. I mean, Wendy's the best at her job that I've ever seen, and everybody wants a piece of her, and I'm not going to give her up. But education is always important. There's always new things happening within the state. There are always things happening with the Alzheimer's, and anything that she's working with. And I'd love to be able to send her to some of these that cost. A lot of them are for free, but some of them are very important. There's also a conference for the Mass Council on Aging's, and that conference is in October, and I'd like to attend that, and that's $500
Okay.
for that one.
All
I
right,
just think that the more we know, the better we're going to serve the community.
absolutely. Now, what's the $1,000 decrease in telephone?
Where are you looking?
Telephone line?
Oh, this line here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Telephone?
We just had, with the new system, or we've just not needed.
Bringing it down in
Yeah,
line.
we've just
Okay.
not, we're,
It was an
the
expensive
year
new
to
system.
date in
yeah.
December, we were only at $500.
Okay. Is that the same thing with the gasoline?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you have an increase coming in your contract, or did you just put that in?
No, I do.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, no, I say it because some people put it in hopes
No,
that.
David called me with, David called me with my score for
But performance review.
performance review and all that, and the percentages that I would be allowed to use for this.
Perfect. All right. Does anyone have any other questions on this budget?
My big one was the $10,000,
Yeah.
but I understand that.
I would like to know about other funds you have available.
Yes, I love this part.
I love hearing this part about how you can find other money out there in order to enhance your program. I
Right,
mean, it's out there.
I just brought some notes because I hoped that this question would come up for us.
You could have asked it, it's okay.
We have a nutrition grant through Old Colony Planning Council, and this year, for FY 2018, hopefully, if the government decides that they're going to grant us the entire amount, they're doing it now in quarterly payments because things are changing so rapidly. But we were issued, not the check, but a letter that ours was going to be $9,000 this year. And that's the nutrition grant, and that subsidizes the salaries and food purchases for our lunch program, our nutrition program. Last year it was 7,000, and the year before that it was 6. So I think we're
Oh, that's
doing pretty well.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Those things don't usually go up.
I know,
know.
yeah. No, good job with that, that's fantastic.
And our donations, we have to consider with this grant, the money that people bring to us to attend lunch, it's $4 for the lunch, needs to be considered a donation. We cannot charge and say your lunch is going to be $4. It's by donation. Everybody pays it. Nobody, unless they can't pay, we're not going to turn them away.
Right.
Nobody has not paid. And that usually comes to about $30,000 a year.
Wow.
And again, that helps defray the cost of salaries. We have two paid people in the kitchen and the food.
So that donation stays within the Council on
That
Aging? It's
donation
not
stays
going
in my
back?
revolving account.
Yeah, it doesn't go
correct.
to the general fund in any way.
Our supportive care, we receive from Old Colony Elder Services approximately $20,000 a year. That's the pay for these people to attend, whatever individuals qualify for that. And private pay is about $14,000. So that program pretty much holds its own for supplies and salaries.
Now, which program is this? This is to support,
That's supportive care, the adult daycare program. that we
and
were
it's
talking about
mostly
earlier.
self-funded then?
It is.
That's great,
Yeah.
okay.
Except their salaries. It doesn't continue to cover their salaries throughout the whole year because there are other costs involved as well. So I have another grant that helps out with that. The formula grant is $16,000 a year, and that helps cover the cost of other salaries. Wendy, part of her salary comes out of that, and actually, there is a schedule in your papers, the salary schedule. Actually, it's in purple. What is covered, it's, oh, yours isn't purple. Not purple. But it's in.
the bold stuff?
It's the bold stuff over in these columns. So there'll be for instance, Wendy would be 18 hours from the general fund and 8.5 hours from the formula grant. And as you look down, there's the nutrition revenue and the general fund for our kitchen folks, general fund and formula grant for drivers, and the activities facilitator, and general fund and supportive care revenue. So they're listed there so you could see how this money is used.
This is their total salary over here?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
That breaks-
No, that's what's coming out of our budget, the town. Uh-huh.
So,
Can I get you to repeat those grants again? You said nutrition grant was 9,000, supportive care 20,000, formula grant 16,000. Did I miss one?
A private pay, she could.
Yeah, how much was
Private
private?
pay, 14.
14.
So this number 11 says TBD, are you hiring someone or
That's
replacing someone?
that's the facilitator for the programs that I had put on my hope,
Oh,
I
I
hope to
see.
get list.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I just received a check last week from, it's called the Trustees of the Home for Aged Men in the City of Brockton. And we call it the Howard Home Grant. And that was $15,000, and that's to be used for programming only. I can't use it for salaries, I can't use it for building, I can't use it for furniture or any kind of supplies. It's to go for the seniors to do things that are educational in nature.
How much was that?
$15,000. And 2016 it was 10, 2017 it was 12, and this year I almost dropped when I saw the $15,000.
So all of this money that you just listed off is on top of the, what is 300,000 or whatever it is?
From the town.
288,000 from the town?
Well-
Not all of it,
Not all
because
of it.
not all of it is paying salaries.
Okay.
What's paying salaries is listed right here for the grants. Okay, am I not explaining
No,
myself
I
very
guess
well?
what I'm
guess
saying
not.
is the town is contributing 288,000.
232 for salaries?
No, just.
We're looking at
total
the
budget.
overall budget.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
And then on
288,
top of that, you have all this other funding. Gotcha.
so that's what it takes to run the,
Right.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Right now, we're in a really good place. I'm very excited about what's happening there, and
That's another over $100,000.
But as
Right.
you're saying, some of the grants can go to your
Programs,
salaries, which is
yeah.
not-
Correct, that's how I figured
And then
my-
the other is just allowing you to do additional work.
this, yeah, yeah. And I'm hoping that the government decides that it's going to continue to help the elderly
Yeah.
out, because they're.
So how many people in the town?
There's so
do you
much
feel-
unknown,
I
yeah.
know. How many people in the town do you feel like you service, like overall? Do you keep
came so
track? or-
prepared. Yes,
good for you.
I do. Last year, I had no clue what to expect.
Yeah.
And we didn't make you cry, so.
You did not.
So that's good.
Just,
Never not
Well, some
I'll
of us
just-
have different goals.
I don't have a total here, but we served 7,754 congregate meals in the year of 2017.
Meals?
Meals.
How many was that?
7,754.
Wow, that's one for every
No wonder I have
resident.
to buy my cook new shoes.
And redo the floors.
And so do you don't really have a sense of how many people overall come in?
It's.
Yeah, they keep
Well,
track of every day.
Oh, no. These are all numbers. This is my annual report, and these are all numbers. Some of them are duplicated, so if I went in 3 days a week for supportive care, I'd be counted 3 times.
Yeah.
So a lot of these are duplicated, but that's how many people come into the building. I
Yes,
mean, you can
right,
count me as many
right.
times as I'm there.
Right.
So we had 806 supportive care, you can have this if you want, 806 supportive care clients throughout the year, 1,200, well, you don't care about BAT bus, but we do arrange BAT trips for the elderly. Home-delivered meals is 3,800. Recreational trips, we had 316 participate. Line dancing, 450. Bridge club, 697. Tai Chi, 324.
Wow.
Mahjong, they come and play, 486. We had just put the movie program in, it was 70. That didn't start till September. Swedish weaving, and we call it pins and needles, 635.
Wow.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of people. That's
Now, we have
fantastic.
Weight Watchers in there on Saturday mornings and Tuesday nights, 1,941 by the time this was done.
Wow.
There's 120 that come on Saturdays every Saturday.
I've heard good things about that.
Is that just seniors or anyone? That's anyone.
That program is open to anyone. It's not just seniors, but the majority of people that are there are seniors. It's amazing. Strength and fitness class 642, walking club 178, special events we had 9 of them, 709 people.
Wow.
Education and senior outreach programs 760, intergenerational programs 340. Now that's the duplicated. We also have, these are fuel assistant applicants, food stamp applicants, outreach case management advocacy 194, outreach contacts and client find 414. She actually saw 305 people for SHINE appointments.
What's that?
SHINE is Serving Health Information Needs of Elders, and it happens during open enrollment for health insurance, so
Okay.
Medicare and all that.
Yeah.
305 in a 3-month period. 26 outreach referrals and tax preparation 48. So that's a year in the life of the COA right now. Yeah.
You have I've often wondered this. Let's assume we've got 10,000 official seniors.
We have like 1,600, but go for it.
Yeah, I mean, let's say it's 10,000, but
Yeah.
it's the same 1,000 people all the time. Is that significant? Does that mean that we're not reaching more seniors, or it's just the same people?
That's a good question, because some of these numbers, like I said, are duplicated. And we do get people coming in from other towns as well. They hear about our lunch program, and they come
And they
to
don't
our
have
lunch
one,
program,
yeah.
and they don't have one. So we get several people here from other towns. We're trying. I send out 1,400 newsletters a month. We post things on the website. We call people like Esther Drive. You know, we have our van runs to Esther Drive a lot because we have several people that come to us from there. The 2 parks. So we do try very hard to, and in the newspaper and now in the buzz around. I mean, we try to reach out in those ways.
I asked that because my brother lives in Nevada in a big, huge retirement community. He estimated that perhaps 20% take advantage of the facilities, which are breathtaking.
I bet.
The rest of the people don't care or don't go.
Well, and the other thing I found too, when every once in a while, every so often with this grant that we have from the Howard Home, we will advertise a trip. We did mobsters and lobsters.
Yeah.
It's kind of a fun thing, and it's educational because you learn a lot about the mob scene in Boston all the time. But at any rate, we put it in there as a free program, and we get people we've never seen in the doors before.
Oh, wow.
To do that, so we try to sort of get
drag 'em in.
them to come in and then see what we offer,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
hope the and some of them have come back for other programs, and again, some of them still work. There's
Yeah.
quite a few of them out there that still work.
Now, you've had a lot of great metrics there, and there were another department head that we had asked for similar information about, but perhaps you might know some of it.
Yeah.
We're specifically talking about, we met with John Cruz last week, and we went over the Board of Health department budget. And we were really trying to better understand how the nurse fits in, how many people she sees. And do you have information similar to
I
that?
do.
Oh, here we go.
I have February's report, but it's an indication of what's happening there. So in February, we saw, well, she didn't give us a report for February.
So close.
I know.
And it's not here. I'm going to say she might see up to 35 or 40 people a month.
The same people each week?
No, it depends on what day she comes. Basically, she's there on Wednesdays, and what I'd like to do, if they're approved for her to be another day, it's an entirely different audience on Mondays than there
Oh.
is on Wednesdays.
Okay.
why it is. Maybe it could be the menu. I have no idea why, but it's an entirely different audience on Mondays than it is on Wednesdays. So I would like if she could kind of mix that up a little bit. And if not approved, I'd like for her to just
Do half and
alternate
half.
days.
Yeah.
What does she generally do, like blood pressure? and-
She does, I'm not sure what it's called, she does a diabetic
Yeah.
reading.
Yeah.
She does blood pressure, it's a screening.
Yeah.
She'll weigh them, she'll do the blood pressure, she'll listen to their hearts, she'll listen to their lungs. It's just a
Say,
screening.
go see your doctor if you have to.
She sent my husband, she said, I think you have bronchitis. And he left that day and went right to the doctors.
So you see that serving a lot of people and being a needed resource?
I do. And we had an emergency in the lunchroom the other day. Somebody had very thin skin and apparently brushed up against something and was bleeding quite heavily. And so she happened to be there, thank goodness, and helped him. We've had choking incidents on a couple of occasions that she's helped out. I mean, she's good to have around the house.
Oh, gosh, I never thought
Most
about
senior
that.
centers have a nurse on duty, do you know? or-
I don't think most. I think there are some that are fortunate to have them. Yeah. I don't think she's needed every day for a full day, but when the impact is there of people, is usually during the lunch.
Because they're there. Yeah.
Right.
Yes, yeah. That's when we service between 60 and 75 people on a lunch.
And you guys do a great job.
Well, thank
Marilyn
you.
hosted the Girl Scouts, all went over and sang Christmas songs and brought cookies for everyone. And, yeah, they did an amazing job. The
And we're
place looked
looking forward
beautiful.
to St. Patty's Day as well.
Yes, with the
Yeah.
Lions Club.
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah.
All right, does anyone have any other questions?
A lot going on. I think that it's, your questions indicate to me that people just don't realize what's happening there.
Yeah, I didn't realize so much. I didn't know you had all those trips or.
And hopefully people are watching tonight.
Hopefully,
Right.
yeah, hopefully the people see that, come on down.
Oh, well, that's fantastic. I appreciate all the information, especially the statistics. You got the statistics side of me all excited.
You knocked it out of the park.
I'm not doing this year.
Well, thank you for tracking that, because it is important,
It
I
is.
think, for the town to understand the services that their tax dollars are providing, right?
Yes,
And the people
absolutely.
that they're supporting. I think it's
Absolutely.
important. So
It's not
thank you
just
for
bingo,
tracking that.
yeah.
Now, what kind of,
just-
Don't even have bingo anymore.
what kind of needs, what kind of needs do you foresee for your department? What do you think you're really going to need in 3 years?
3 years. Obviously, I think if we continue at the pace we're going, I think we're going to need more staff, educated staff, and the level that we're at now is just phenomenal. I have a team that at the drop of a penny came in over the weekend to help. I mean, they were just amazing. I think that we need storage so badly. So I don't know if we can build a shed out back, replace that old one, and so we can have some nice weather-proofed storage. The attic is there, and we have all of our, we were talking about paperwork earlier, it's all stored in the attic. But a lot of the attic doesn't have a floor.
What about
And it's
the building-
difficult to get to.
What about the building itself, maintenance, roof, that kind of stuff? How old is that building?
I'm going to say 16, 17 years.
I was going to say.
I don't remember exactly when the ribbon cutting was, but I have pictures that are dated to 2002.
20 years, you're gonna need a roof.
I'm not sure. We replaced the gutters last year. We were having an issue with the front all the way across gutters leaking.
Like the heating, and do you have problems? No.
We've not had problems with the
Knock on wood.
heating.
I know, right?
Not had problems. We have had a little bit of a problem last year with the AC, and the lines were freezing. And so he had to come down, and he cleaned it all up, and he said, run the fan with the AC more often. So it's not just,
Yeah.
sometimes it'll run for a while and it'll cool off, but then it'll get too warm,
Ice is up, yeah.
freezes up. Other
Nothing
than
where you say I have to kick it every day to get it going.
And my dream is to screen in part of that back porch, just so they have a place to go. There's It's very buggy near the woods and the swamp. It's swampy, so it's difficult for them to go out there. So at some point, I would love to be able to screen that in.
I thought it was, but guess not, huh?
No, we have beautiful rockers out there, and we have tables and chairs. They could be out there playing cards and rocking and talking and having a great time, but nobody wants to be there, yeah. Even at lunchtime in the summertime would be great, to be able to take their lunch out there. So that's, I have a couple of
That'd be
dreams.
Terribly expensive either, I wouldn't think.
I wouldn't think, we can't, I'd love a three-season porch, but I've been told that that would send us over to a different square footage living space, which means we'd have to have installed the, what do you call it? Sprinkler system. Thank you. So I think if we screen it in, we're good to go.
Good, well, thank you very
Thank
much.
you so much.
Well, thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you very much.
You as well. And come on down and see us. Have lunch sometime.
That's fun.
All right, the next ones we're gonna hear from are the water department.
Yeah, I hear this one.
Wow, she had some great statistics. and had all those
glad I
numbers.
asked.
Right, yeah, I
from
had no
newbie
idea
question.
how that
Sure.
stuff was
So
going.
here's the newbie question, and I think she's doing a great, fantastic job. She comes in, sits down, says it's level funded, but it's 3.5 over.
Right.
I'm still confused
So
about
it's-
that.
Yeah, and the level service, she's adding
And
services.
she's already, and again, I think well needed, but.
Right, but that's
So
not.
what's the, what's
That was-
So we'll have to figure it out at
Fair
the
enough,
end.
at a
see
later
where
on.
we are
Okay,
with the
yep.
numbers.
Right.
Yeah.
fine.
Okay.
Hello, gentlemen, how are you?
Hi.
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Where we sitting?
Screwed up because the water department's
Right
at the
here?
end.
You know what, I'll move.
Yeah, I know, I couldn't find it either.
Jerry's spot.
Oh, that's all right, I just didn't know where we're supposed to be sitting.
You know, I'll try to give you some space.
Wherever you like.
Good, thanks, how are you?
Play Jerry tonight?
I will. I just won't yell at
I put this down so nobody thinks you're Jerry.
Oh, someone's already figured out Jerry's reputation, huh? She's the yeller.
I love it, I love it.
Boy.
Nicest of ways, though.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's jump to the first one, water department, budget 4,500.
We're number one, huh? We're the first one tonight?
Oh,
Oh, I think she said number one.
knocked over a few people.
First item we're gonna talk
Oh,
about.
it's in the back?
Yeah. It's not in numerical order
Oh.
for whatever reason.
Yeah, water's always
That's way at
separate.
the end.
Because it's not part of the real estate tax calculation, they're part
All
of it
right.
separately.
Boy, I have a lot to
They're
learn.
funded by the water department. but they're
Okay.
receipts. So when I was meeting with David earlier, he had said the yellow boxes you'll see on this budget are because these numbers
Highlighted.
are going to be updated when he has all the benefits and the insurance figures. So these numbers are going to come from David. They're completely out of the water department's control.
Okay.
So it's the allocation of insurance, retirement benefits,
Oh, right, yeah.
the different overhead type items.
We buy all those with the town as a boat, you know, fleet insurance and stuff like that. Actually, the only line items that you're gonna find, we're gonna just talk about the ones that changed, or we're gonna talk
Yes.
about them all?
Let's talk about the ones that changed.
The ones that changed, okay. Appointed official, it goes from 84,460 to 98,371. That represents actually a 2.5% raise over 18 months. And reason why it looks bigger is because now there's no more benefits, just like the highway, Chris Anatelli and Sean got, they don't have benefits now, they're just getting salary. So
What do you
Wayne's,
mean, what do you mean by benefits? Sean still gets benefits.
for licenses.
Oh, you mean
and
the
all-
stipends?
Stipends,
Okay.
all those stipends.
I think for Sean, they were eliminated and they just have the winter stipend.
Yeah, but he isn't getting, we're not giving him $5,000 for overtime.
Well, it's for being on call for the whole winter.
Yeah, I know, he's on call 365 days a year, but that's part of the job. So he isn't, we're not giving him that. We just left the longevity in there.
I don't think.
So that's the
I'm
only, that's the
understanding.
only difference, huh?
I don't think I'm not following what you're saying.
Well, he's on call 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And
As
he
most of
doesn't
the
get paid for it.
departments are. Most department heads are on call all the time.
Right, so they decided to give the DPW people $5,000 for snow plowing.
The two directors, yes.
Right.
Well, it's not for snow
But we're
plowing,
not,
it's for
but if
being on
he,
call.
so we're not paying him $5,000.
He's not plowing. I'm missing something
No,
here.
this pretty
Well,
much
what's the-
states
the-
it's for
the-
the winter.
But they're two different jobs. He doesn't plow snow, so, but he works overtime. So they're being reimbursed for overtime, right? When they're snow plowing?
I hate to tell you, Sean took a pay cut going to
Okay.
director.
I don't know. But anyways, that's what we negotiated, is 2.5%.
Wait a minute, what's 2.5%?
It says
That,
16.
the difference
You're
between
telling me to go from
84,460 to 98,371.
That's not 2.5%.
Yes, it is.
You have to look to the stipends line.
You have to look to the stipend line because the stipend lines went down. His stipends were
So-
taken out.
It's not 2.5% over the 84,000 then.
Yes, it is.
What's the
Two and
16?
a
Because
half
the stipends,
percent of
the stipends are now
84,000.
included.
So it's not on the
So
84.
you're saying you're removing stipends, but you're increasing his salary?
We just
Is
took
that-
his stipends, added up what he gets his stipends and put it in his
And put it in
salary.
his salary?
Exactly.
Okay.
And,
so
and we gave him, and what we did is, and I don't know how it got shifted, but years ago when I was there, they shifted it so that I was actually negotiating getting a pay raise in December, which didn't make any sense because there was no money to give me a pay raise. So we were having to steal it from the electric bill or whatever. Then you'd go to town meeting and increase the funding, so for the next 6 months, you'd have the money, but then I was negotiating again. So what I suggested is that we negotiate in January, okay, for the pay raises. We go to the finance committee in February or March. We go to the town meeting by June. The raise takes place in July, and it's funded. So that's the way we moved it. So he's actually going 18 months, not a year, without a pay raise. He's getting that 2.5% represents 18 months.
So when you move, so the stipend was to cover any overtime? Is that what the
No.
stipend was for? What was?
No,
the
he's already
stipend
getting
for?
paid. He is already making, if you take the 84,460 and you add up his stipends, he was making almost that 98,000 within 2.5%.
Okay.
He's already making that today.
Why'd the
If you take
stipends
the
come out?
84,460
in the
and
first
add
place?
2.5%
What's that?
to it,
Why did the
and then add
stipends
the
come out? Why didn't
11,800
they?
stipends.
Because they asked us to write the contract, they asked us to write the contract for him, like the
11,800?
ones in the highway, so that now all the people have the same, basically the same contract. They wanted the same wording. We didn't want to do it that way. It was against us. Mr. Kinahan came down, and he brought down a letter, and he said, we want all department heads to have the same type of contract. I said, we don't agree with you, but hey, that's the way you want it, that's the way we'll do it. So we wrote the contract, basically the same. But one thing that we didn't want to do is we weren't going to pay, it's his job to run the water department 24 hours a day and work overtime or whatever. And so we said we weren't going to give him the $5,000. So he is, if you guys want us to give him the $5,000, you can make the recommendation, but we're not going to recommend it.
So what's the $5,000? You're giving him $5,000 on top of
We're
it?
not giving him $5,000, we just said we're not.
Taking it away.
Can I say something?
Thank you, Donnie.
We're getting confused.
We are
Yes,
confused.
very, very confused.
Let's start back again. We wrote a contract out for Wayne. And Tom Snell wanted to have David Gagne look at it. So he wanted us to stay consistent with
The way the
contracts
contracts are written.
with the other superintendents. Follow so far, okay. So there was a $5,000 stipend in there, one for
One for
Sean
Chris.
and one for Chris. And I asked Kinahan about that, what was that about? He said, well, when there's snowing out and they're out there doing extra, I said, but when Wayne has a water break on a Sunday night, he's not getting paid any extra for that. But we didn't feel like that $5,000 stipend was right. I mean, it's part of your job to go out and plow snow, part of his job to go out and fix leaks. So I think we're starting to go around the circles here. We decided to go with the same pay raises that the other superintendents are getting, but we did not put that $5,000 stipend in.
Oh, so you took out all the stipends?
Well, no,
and just rolled it all
that
into the salary.
$5,000 stipend was in the other two contracts that we saw, but we didn't give that to Wayne. I think that's what,
But
Yeah.
you did because you made it part of his salary.
No,
Is that what you're
no,
saying?
no, we didn't have that in. No, it's not in
that
there.
$5,000 stipend, we didn't even look at that.
We didn't even look at that. That's thrown out. That's
So,
gone.
get
So
that out of
then
your mind, okay?
his
We did not
salary's
put that in the
going-
contract.
Okay, so his salary's going from 84 to 98, which is more than 2.5%. Is that what?
But Wayne explained it that if you take the $84,460,
Yeah.
you add in $11,500 worth of stipends that came out of other lines. And then you add 2.5%.
No, 2.5 on the 84,60, not on the big number.
Not on the big number. It's on the small number.
$300.
His original,
Just,
But thank you. I was off by $300. That would explain why.
I mean, I like that arrangement, because
You like
when
what?
I was working private industry, of course, you didn't have stipends.
Oh,
You
absolutely.
got a number.
But there's a
and
reason
you were
for the
expected to
stipends.
work on salary whenever you were needed, but it was just one number.
in my case, I don't
So,
get overtime.
yeah.
I agree.
Right, Sean doesn't either.
Right, but so hourly workers, it works out better for the town.
But he gets more salary,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Well,
That
no,
way
Sean's
you can
salary
look at
was
that
set
and
at
say,
this
well,
rate
that's
for
what
being
everyone's
on call, they
making,
give
that's
them
what you should be
Give you
making.
more money,
But we
right?
didn't put
Now,
that.
the reason that we had kept stipends separate from the salaries before is when people go to retire, it keeps their salary a little bit
Yeah.
lower and their retirement benefit a little
Well, I was
lower.
gonna say, when you add it into the salary, then
No,
every
they-
time they
Then his
get a
retirement
raise,
benefits.
It's
No.
on a higher
Right.
number.
Plymouth
than-
County takes out of my stipends.
yes, Plymouth County.
It's included no
And
matter
that
what.
$5,000 for the snow plowing is pensionable.
Let
They
that
take
part go,
pension.
would you please, because that's confusing.
Yeah, the 5,000, because it
Leave that
has nothing to
5,000.
do with,
But even that, even the stipends, if you get something for the licenses, for truck drivers, CDLs, all that, they take retirement out of it. That's part of your retirement.
Yeah, they
There's
do.
two ways Plymouth County looks at it. A lot of towns, if you get a CDL license, you get paid $36 an hour. If you don't have a CDL license, you don't get 36, you get 32. So there's two different ways to do it. You can either pay it as a stipend every year, or you can pay it as a
Hourly
dollar, an hour wage difference. And it's just the way the town wants to handle it. So Plymouth County, there's only certain things that they can declare as pay, so that they can take pension out of it, and they have to review it, and it has to get state approval. So not all the stipends are, not all of them,
excluded. Okay.
that they allow, that they take retirement out of, just some of them.
So I'm
That
trying
kinda
to
makes sense.
understand what the $11,000 stipend was for in his case.
Oh,
When it
do you want to
was
list them?
All right, so I have a CDLA, I have,
a license?
yes.
Okay.
It's that commercial
I have a
driver.
treatment 4, which is the top. I have a distribution 4, which is the top. I have a hydraulics license. I don't get paid for my wastewater license. I have a small engine repair. Trying to think of like.
So it's
There's
just
boots and shoes
various
and clothing.
licenses and then
Yes.
clothing allowance?
Yep.
Is there anything else in there?
Not
or
that
that's
I can
pretty much
think of.
it?
There's
I
a
think that's
personal
it.
benefits
Like clothing, they don't take retirement out of.
Right, because that's supposed to be a
Boots,
reimbursement.
they don't take retirement out of.
Right, it's a reimbursement.
So
The
instead of
surplus.
doing all of that stuff separately, they've included that in your
We
salary?
Yes.
rolled it in there.
And so there is a requirement in the contract for you to keep all those licenses, right?
Yes.
Right.
He has to have that.
He has to,
I think I
Keep
got it
them.
now. Thank you.
Explaining that at town meeting,
Yeah.
It's gonna be painful.
it's gonna
So,
be painful,
like
you know
for
what
a
I
town
mean?
worker, it saves the town money because they don't pay overtime on stipends.
Yeah.
I don't get overtime.
Yeah. I was just wondering how it impacts, like, every year when you get your increase, now that increase is
It's on a
Based on the
higher
larger
number.
is
amount.
based on a higher salary.
Percentage may not be as high. May not.
Okay,
I mean, if you're making $1 million a year, you're not getting 5%,
yeah,
usually.
yeah.
But the gist, I believe, is to have all the
The department
superintendent,
heads get the
department
same.
head.
I mean, I like it. I
Same
like,
thing,
I
yeah.
like the one
Yeah,
one number.
Roll them in.
Yeah. Instead of.
That's what they did with the other contracts. They rolled them all in there.
yeah.
Right, right. Well,
All
we
right,
got
so
through one
do
line.
we all
okay,
understand
there's
what
one line.
happened on that first line?
Okay.
All right, so that was the
The,
increase of almost 14,000. Then we have the clerical salaries is 15%.
Yeah, the clerical, the labor, those are all union contracts that the Board of Selectmen negotiate. Office manager would be the only one that got changed. She got a 3% raise,
Wait a minute, office manager, line 5118, that's not 3%.
5.1. Yeah,
5.88.
Clerical.
5.88. Oh, she got 3%? Last year, was it?
You're asking me, I didn't even say that I have
So, I remember being here in the past, and when I told you that our raises didn't align with July, you said that that was kind of stupid and to start aligning him. Her previous raise wasn't actually funded because it didn't align with July.
Right, we changed hers now to July. His and hers, because it didn't make any sense the way we were doing it.
So is that why it's closer to 6%?
Probably.
Because
Probably
it's
that's why I
spanned
figured
more
out,
than
because
12
now we're going another 6 months.
So there should be a breakout with the payroll, right? I just want to make sure I'm following this right.
Be under Kerry Buckley.
Okay, I'm not sure I'm understanding her rate change, because it's not showing me anything on here.
Doesn't have anything.
It just says the total
Number of hours.
salary, right? 40 hours and the total salary.
Because she was salary.
Yeah, but 2.5% should be, and say it's over,
No, it's
18
3% we gave her.
One was 3, yeah.
but this is almost 6, so that would be
that's
close
two
to
and a
2 years, right?
Oh, that's too, yeah, that, bet you that's because it's the second year. Because see, remember, she got a pay raise, not for this coming fiscal year. We had to negotiate with her because her contract expired. So I think her contract expires in August, that's when it was. We had to deal with this right after the finance, the town meeting. She was up for a pay raise.
Okay.
But
We
it
had
wasn't
negotiated
included?
a 3% pay raise.
So she got 3% this past August.
Yep, and it wasn't funded. So we got to
So
come
you
up with the
didn't
money.
pay her? I don't get what you're saying.
What do you
So
mean
it wasn't
That's-
funded, so you found money in your budget
Yeah,
elsewhere to pay her?
we have to, because somebody's contract expires and you don't have funding for it. That's why I said, this is what was happening when I was working there. They were negotiating with me and giving me pay raises, and there was no funding for it. We had to take it from the electric bill.
So when you
You get
came,
it
No,
retroactive.
So I said, let's make it,
Yeah.
we're gonna pull her back to July, we're not gonna negotiate in August. We're gonna give her pay raise, we're gonna negotiate in January with both of them. We're gonna give them their pay raises in July, okay? After we get the funding.
so when you came last year, we didn't put a pay raise in the budget last year for her?
They were both level funded.
Okay.
And then,
Have to go back
and then a
and
month later, her contract expired. So we had to negotiate for a pay raise.
Yeah.
But we didn't put in for a pay raise, we didn't know what it was gonna be.
Now, when you say it wasn't funded, but you fund your own budget with water.
Yes, but the last time I.
No, that doesn't make sense, because of course we fund our own budget. We
And I had
have
to come back
to
in
raise the
April.
revenue to cover whatever the bottom line is. We have to set the rate
Right.
to bring that much money in. That's,
So to say it's not funded makes it sound like we didn't give you money or something, when
We-
that's not the case.
in the line, no, you didn't, because the line item
You
didn't have
don't
it.
give you money.
You didn't give us money because we didn't ask
I
for it,
didn't put it
because we
in.
hadn't negotiated yet.
But we don't give you money. The water department is
I
its
know.
own.
The line item,
not have a
it
raise.
didn't have it, if you don't have money in the line item, I can bring in $8 million, but I can't spend any more than my budget.
Well, it's a
And
bottom line
and that
budget.
just means I brought in surplus. So that doesn't make sense.
I think to help Rick out, let me just show you what, if everybody can look at ATM approved for office manager 5118. 61, 621. Does everybody see that number?
Yes.
No, I'm sorry, where are you?
If you look at
On the line.
5118, office manager.
Yep.
61, 621.
Yep,
You can see that was what was approved last year going into town meeting.
okay,
In the previous year, actual was 61, 361. So there's only a couple $100
Gotcha.
difference there, which most likely is a difference between 52.1 weeks and 52.2 weeks.
yep,
So what that means is, what Rick is saying is that they funded at 61, 621, which was level funded, 0% basically year over year.
okay,
Then in August, they must have given her a pay raise.
Okay.
Let's just, I'm making up a number.
Yep.
Just say it's 63, because that would be about 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
And then on that 63, 2.5 now equals out to 65, 244.
gotcha.
And I ran into this, Meredith will remember this because she's the most senior person. But when I came to town, none of our department heads were July 1 to June 30th. We would run into this every year.
Okay,
And so the last 4 years, I've aligned it where 100% of our department heads are now July 1 to June 30th, so you can take a real good snapshot. So now Rick and his board has done the same thing.
Okay.
Which means you could have a real good snapshot going forward.
so going forward, we should just see the 1 year's.
But if you
raise.
follow that approved versus the actual, you'll see what he's saying to be accurate, that it was level funded. And then that's why this 65, 244 that looks like a big jump is really a reflection of 2 years instead of one.
Gotcha,
Exactly.
that makes sense.
Okay, so,
You did ask us last year to realign it. You said it was
Yeah.
stupid to be misaligned.
Yeah,
Did I say stupid? I might have
Well,
said that
not
here,
that
but
word,
hopefully
but-
I didn't say it
You didn't
here.
say- Not in that word, but.
Okay. Okay, so we talked about appointed official salary, we talked about clerical salaries. Labor, you said that's all contractual?
yeah, that's all contractual. They got a pay raise this year, so with the guys and the hours that they put in, it's gonna go from 206,546 to the 223,631.
But if you compare that to the 2 actual
We're
years
also fully
prior,
staffed now.
oh, and you weren't then,
No,
Right.
You added,
We added in the final person.
okay.
then overtime goes from 33,717 to 40,076. And part of that is because of the pay raise, part of that is because now instead of getting 2 hours of overtime for station maintenance, they're gonna get 3 hours, and instead of call out, they're not gonna get 3 hours, they're gonna get 4 hours. So with those changes.
So that's the minimum pay, that during a call, okay.
Right.
Is that the
Minimum pay
same
during a call.
contract with the forestry and the highway?
Yes.
It's their
4
same
hour?
contract.
It's a 4-hour call-in now?
Yep.
so even if it's 15 minutes, you get paid for 4 hours, is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Just to make
usually they're not just 50.
Yeah, no, just so we understand.
Some are easy and some are not.
The words, the wording in the contract for forestry, highway, and water are all the same, it's the same contract.
It's
The
the
only
same
difference
contract.
is the licenses that we get, we have to have in the water department.
Right.
That's basically the only difference.
And what's the big jump in longevity?
Longevity, somebody's getting longevity.
That what, didn't have it before?
No, because it goes up every year, because you go up 0.5% every year of your total salary, so if your salary went up and you're making more money, then, and you got 2 people that went up, that's what it came out to.
I work in the private sector, we don't have this stuff, so I'm just trying to understand. Sometimes
And I've
it's a
been here a long
detriment to be there longer, trust me.
So now we could see allowances and stipends, that's down 10,000, which is in line with what Wayne said,
Right.
11,800
Right.
being rolled into
Yep.
his salary.
That's where,
Makes sense.
Okay.
that's just where it came from.
Now, electricity, you're saying is going up
Electricity,
more?
we spent 74,641, we spent 73,927, and we've been budgeting 70. So it doesn't make much sense, we're only kidding ourselves, we can't pump that much water for $70,000. So we raised it to 74,000 to be a little bit closer to the number that we've been spending. The next one down is Ed Saros, that's for the computer, the hub system there. And we just get that number from him, whatever thinks he's gonna need for, to keep up the computers. We do that with the town, so he just tells us what it's gonna be.
Can I just ask you about the engineering pump testing? It looks like we, we got 69,000, but you haven't spent
Spend
any?
any?
And then,
Okay.
do you think you're gonna spend that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We're just starting. Right now, we're going to special town meeting a couple nights to do over station number 1. We've been concentrating on that. We've also been trying to find out what we got to do to develop another well. We haven't developed a well since 1985. Think about how many subdivisions have been added. A lot of houses. So every time that a house gets added, they're taking some of your percentage of your water. So it's not gonna be long before we're gonna have a water shortage. He's pumping like straight out. It's gonna take years to get approval. We started meeting with the engineers, and there's all new regulations. It's probably gonna take at least 5 years, and I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't cost $5 million to get the station built.
Crazy.
So, oh yeah,
makes
we
no
may not
sense.
even be able to develop another well. We're at the risk of, and if we do get permission to develop another well, we're probably gonna have strict water bans and
We got the same ringtone. He's killing it.
I changed mine, I know.
Me too.
and be, nobody's gonna be able to do any outside water, and if they say that we can develop another well. So it's gonna be tough. We don't own the water supply anymore, the state owns it. So they're more worried about how much water is left in the swamps for the bugs, so that the birds can eat it and the frogs can eat and stuff. Really, I'm telling you, that's,
Turtle and there's a salamander.
it's
Trying to
the
balance.
environmentalists. There used to be a water supply side of DEP, but on well approval now, it's the Audubon Society, the Fish and Game, and everybody else. So their attitude is, I asked them one day, well, human beings come first. They said, what makes you think that?
Oh,
What makes you think human beings come first? Animals and insects and everybody else were here before we were, so we gotta protect them.
That's
I was like, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
But that's where we're at. So this is just the beginning. With that money that we have in there, we're just looking at, if they're even gonna let us, we're looking at stress basins, because we're already withdrawing water from the Sear Street area. They now label that as a stress basin because we're already taking water from it. Now they're suggesting that we look outside of that area, but there's already houses built on it, so I don't think that's ever gonna happen, but it's gonna take, a lot of work, a lot of engineering to even get it approved. So, yeah, we're gonna be back, we're gonna be moving at the annual town meeting, more money, not in a line item like that, but into an article that can transfer from year to year, and we're gonna have to keep adding to it, because the biggest thing is, in the next couple of years, the next year or two, to see if we could get approval of a site that we are gonna be able to develop. Another problem that we have is that they've declared that iron in the water is a health hazard. It used to be a secondary contaminant, now they're saying that it's a major contaminant. So they're worried that infants in the formula, the mothers are mixing the water with the milk, and it's affecting their health. So you're gonna have to keep the iron level low, really low. And our Norman Avenue well has a borderline iron amount. It's gonna cost about $3 million if we wanna build another pumping station. Another iron removal plant. That's what it costs us to build the other one. So what we were looking at is putting another well behind it. There's another future well out there, but that's in a stress basin. So they don't think they're gonna give us permission to do it. So we may have to build an iron removal plant to use the Norman Avenue well for $3 million, plus go out and build another well just to have enough water. So
Sounds very expensive.
it's gonna be very expensive, and we have a choice, either drinking water or not having any.
Right.
So,
Right, no, we've always had good water in this town.
I know, and we bought a lot of land to protect our water supply, but we're just at the beginning stages now of trying to get a well approved, and.
So
it's
is
good.
that what the legal services are?
Yep, that's the
Where
engineering
I-
services for that, and we've been concentrating on, we just got the bids out for the, we just opened them a couple days ago.
Great.
For the
I see we approved $5,000 under legal services and we're spending 12,000.
Yeah, that was over my lawsuit. They spent 12,000, so I don't want to discuss that.
So we won't, that's not gonna be a recurring thing, and that's
No.
not.
All right, what other changes are we looking at here? $1,500 more in office supplies? What are you printed?
Okay. Office supplies. That's because a lot of it is the bills. Now we went to quarterly instead of semi-annual. So we're printing twice as many, buying twice as many stamps.
Oh, I thought that was outsourced. It's not, you do it in-house?
Yeah, but we have to pay for it. We have to pay for the paper.
No, we print the bills in-house.
Oh, I thought that was
We
outside.
send it out to have it mailed. Mass mail
Print,
it
they
down.
fold it and stuff it in an envelope, mail it,
Oh,
but,
okay.
but we still have to buy, we used to buy what, say there's 2,000, say there's 3,000 envelopes, you have to buy 6,000 a year, now we're buying 12,000.
Right.
So why did we go to more bill?
Because the bill got so high, and people were screaming that they couldn't
Makes
pay
it
it,
less painful.
and 2 bills a year, it was just easier on people. So it was more expensive for us, more work, but that's what people wanted, so that's what we did. So we ended up spending a little bit more. You could see we did 13,600, and then we did 15,374. So Wayne felt if we raised it up a little bit to the 14,500, we might be a little bit closer to the number we're actually spending every year. And then going.
Postage just went up.
Yeah, everything. So then we go down, the next line item, I think that really increased is equipment replacement. And the equipment replacement is not trucks and tractors or anything like that. It's all the pumps, the booster pumps and everything inside the pumping stations. Now, all the pumping stations, the corrosion control buildings, they all have about 12 pumps each in them. And they're getting older. I put them in, so he has the problem, all of a sudden one of them will burn out. And what do they go for, like $500 a piece?
The booster pumps are about 1,200. But just as an example, the Manley Street plant has 8 valves per filter. There's 3 filters, there's 24 valves. One of them just went. It took me 2 weeks to get it in-house, so the station stayed down in that time. It was $3,200 for one valve.
Wow.
So,
There are 8, there's
as
24.
things age,
Custom
and
valve.
if we have to build another iron removal plant, all these things are just gonna get bigger.
Yeah.
So, just the cost, these guys have been replacing the valves and doing all the stuff themselves. We're not hiring people to do it. We're just having to just buy the valve that needs to be replaced. And, everything's just expensive, so, we had to raise that number up because, we're kidding ourselves. We're budgeting 5,000, and he spent last year there 5840, and that this year he's already spent, he said, that 3,000 on that one valve. So I mean, and that was we just signed that bill the other night. So we put in 6,000, and then hopefully that'll be a little bit closer.
All right, and I know.
So we have a difference here of about 51,000 between last year's budget and this year, but it'll probably be a little bit higher than that because we all know that insurances will increase, they're not gonna go down. So we'll probably have just a little bit more than the 51,000 increase, which isn't really that bad, I don't think, about 2.6%.
Now, have you increased any services with this budget? All the services have remained the same, right?
Everything's the same.
Okay.
See, with us, we don't have very much control, like over an electric bill or anything. When you turn on your faucet at home and you drop the tank, if it drops to a certain level, the electricity turns on. So we don't have the luxury of saying, well, let's shut off the lights, and save some money there, or if you turn on the water and the pump needs to turn on because the tank went down, it turns on. And, our electric bill is $80,000 a year, so we don't have any control over it. So the more you water and the more times it turns on, the higher the bill is. We just have to pay it when it comes in. We don't have any control over it.
When the power went out also, we stayed running.
Oh, good, you have
We're
generators. right?
self-contained.
Yeah, we have generators but then our gas bill goes up because they're all natural gas.
Now, do you think this is going to affect the water rates at all? Because it is an increase to the
No,
budget.
because I think that we're actually, this year, it looks like we're only, don't forget, we just sent out the third bill. So we haven't really analyzed the results, but looking at the first two billings, we brought in more than what we anticipated to meet the budget. So
Okay.
it looks like we're gonna generate a surplus once again.
Okay.
And then, and the more construction that you have, the more tie-in fees that you collect during the year, that's all unanticipated funding. And so that falls all out into surplus, which we use for further construction, which would cover the cost of the expansion of those wells.
So what's in that fund right now?
What's in what?
The surplus?
What do you have left for surplus for this year?
Well, what's the number we?
It's like 487,000.
Okay.
Somewhere in that neighborhood, plus or minus, I don't.
So we gotta keep at least 50,000 free cash all the time in case of, during the summer when the water table goes down, that's when all the pumps are gonna fail because you're lifting the water the highest and that's when they're running the most, building up the most heat. So that's when you're gonna have your failure. So in the middle of the summer, if something goes out and he has to get somebody in there to fix it quick, and they're usually $20,000 or $30,000 at least to fix a pump. So we need to keep free cash because then we got to come back and ask before an annual town meeting, a special town meeting just before, to transfer money from our surplus to cover that expense we had that was unanticipated. So that's why we always leave that. So we might come in, let's say we had 450 surplus right now. At annual town meeting, we'll be moving 400,000 to continue on with the development of the future well and stuff like that.
All right, I want to make sure we have time to get to the town meeting articles. Does anyone
Yep.
have any other questions on this budget? I think we've gone through all the changes. Now, what is the date of the special town meeting? It's next
14th.
It's 14th.
March 14th.
Next week, okay.
Next Wednesday, right?
Is it next Wednesday? All right. All right, just looking for the articles. Oh, okay. Should be the last two pages of your packet. Last two pages.
It's stapled together.
Okay, and because we don't have a quorum, we're not voting tonight. We're gonna vote the night of the special town meeting. We'll have a meeting beforehand. But, Rick, if you could tell us about some of these articles. And actually, before you even do that, why do we have to have a special town meeting now? Why couldn't this wait till June?
Because we're trying to rebuild station number one because we need the water bad. We can't really, we're in the, in the wintertime and his pumps are running all the time. And we need to get station number one up to full capacity because he's found that in the wintertime even, the daily usage is gone up substantially from other years. And it's from all that new construction up on Walnut Street. There's a lot more water being used. So we need to rebuild, we got to get the wells clean. That's what Article number 1 is all about. That well down there was built in 1948. It was upgraded in 1976. It used to be a series of 2.5-inch wells that were all tied together in 48. Then in 76, we put in 2 large caisson wells with a vacuum system with a horizontal pump on the inside of the building. And those are really obsolete. They're very difficult to run. But the 2 wells are able to produce about 1 million gallons a day, 1.01. And right now, they're only putting out 360,000 gallons per day.
That's if we staff it round the clock with people.
Yeah, and you got to
Is that a lot?
You got to
Is that a
babysit it.
big difference?
360 is not.
No, that's hardly any.
It's
It's supposed to be producing 1 million, so it's only doing a third.
But the 1 million is.
It's permitted
is
for
that
1
a
million
lot of
gallons a
water
day.
for the town? I mean.
No,
Not really.
that's it, no.
How long has it been down? Or
It's-
it's
It hasn't been
reduced?
down, it's running at a reduced
At a
capacity.
reduced capacity.
It-
Old and outdated.
In 76, it started here, and then, say in 85, we cleaned it, and we brought it back up, and then it's been gradually going down. So
Okay.
it's just gradually, if, you know, in another couple of years, it'll be down to 200,000 gallons a day. But then it'll be worse, because in the summertime, you gotta really babysit the pump, because it keeps losing its prime, because it's a vacuum system.
So are we trying to replace the pump or?
No,
Clean the
no,
pump?
so what we're doing, we've taken all this, we took the station all apart, we've changed the whole thing, we're cut off the tops of the wells, we're putting new pitless adapters on, we're dropping two 30 horsepower motors down in them, so now they're gonna be submersible pumps, great big submersible pumps, like the other wells. We're putting variable speed controllers inside the building, which are very energy efficient. You don't need Parco valves, which used to close to stop water hammer. And now when the variable speed controller, the electricity goes out to the pump starts to ramp up. So it starts pumping like 10 gallons a minute, 20, 30, 40, 50, goes up to 500. So they ramp up.
I'm sorry.
So this first article is just to transfer money from where to where?
So these are all surplus,
All set.
So you're moving it from surplus to,
two of these articles.
You
okay.
got enough?
Okay. Yeah, yeah. So, this first,
We're not gonna borrow any money.
so this first one here, we had budgeted originally, the estimate the engineers had. First thing we gotta do is we gotta take two wells, cut the tops off, put the pitless adapters on, and clean them. Okay, so one bid went out, and then the second bid is all the interior work inside the building, putting all the electrical equipment in, running the wires out to the pumps, doing the floors over with new.
So that's what this 460,000 is for?
So, well, we went out to bid, and we had budgeted 581,000, and now we only need to move 348,000. As the bids came in less than what we thought. But we already had 147,000 in Article number 1. So we're just moving 348,000.
Not 460?
No.
Okay.
So it's, what's the number?
So we saved about $100,000 from what we thought it was gonna cost us to do station
So
number 1 over.
what's the actual amount going to be?
348, is that what you're saying?
Not to exceed.
348,840. But we already have in that article, we had 147,571,
So this is adding to that.
just adding to it.
Okay, what's the second one? The second
Okay, the
article?
second one is hydraulic modeling. If you remember, they were trying to build a new subdivision up on Scotland Street, a great big subdivision, and they asked the contractor to pay for the water study to see if we had enough water. They hired an engineer, and he never got the work done. And what happens is, when we built the water tank, we hired our engineer, and they come out and they flow the hydrants and everything, and they all own, all the engineering companies, they all own computer models, and they charge you by the hour to do all the data, feed it all in, and they give you a report, and they love that. So we have the chance now to buy the computer model, and we have a lot of uses for it. One, we're gonna hire an engineering company that works for us now, go out with our guys, and you flow every hydrant, and you put gauges up and down the street, so you can see the pressure drop. So now the computer sees what the flow is and what the pressure drop is on every street. Now, when a subdivision is gonna be proposed in town, the engineers already know. Say it's an apartment complex or something like that, they know that if the building's caught on fire and the sprinkler systems went off, they need 500 gallons a minute or something like that. So at that point in the town, they'd say 500 gallons a minute of usage, or they could put the domestic usage. That computer immediately would tell you where where there's going to be a restriction in the distribution system So we can't deliver that much fire protection. So if there's an upgrade that's needed, you could say to the contractor, we need a water main upgrade on this street here to get you the water that you need, and they'll have to pay for it. And the other thing is, we could probably get it done in 2 weeks at a lot less money than hiring an engineering company to come in and
I don't think I'm understanding. So Article 2 is to move money for, to buy a system?
computer modeling system. Okay, now the computer modeling system is also going to be used for unidirectional flushing of the hydrants.
And this has to be done before the annual town meeting?
Yes.
Why?
Why? Because we need to get the system going now.
What's the difference of 3 months? I'm just trying to understand what's going, I know you know the water part, you've got that down, but I'm really not understanding what it is that we're doing.
Like Station 1, we started after last town meeting because we funded it then. It's just coming now. We're just going now. Engineering companies, they're really not waiting for us. You have to get in. What we're doing is small in comparison to the projects that they deal with. So you gotta fit into their time constraints. They're not gonna, if we wait until July and we say, all right, we got the money now, they may not get to us for another year.
And we may not have a flushing program next year because the flushing program isn't really working. The reason that it isn't working is because we used to shut off the pumps, and when the water tanks fed the water to where he was flushing the hydrants, everybody understood where it was coming from. You could understand the direction. It was coming out of the bottom of the tank. It was feeding this way. Now we added a tank on the other end of town. When you open a hydrant, say on Crescent Street, which way is the water coming from? Is it coming from Walnut Street or is it coming from Spring Street? You don't know. The computer would tell you immediately. It would also tell you which gates need to be closed to get the velocity that you need to scour those pipes to get them clean. So this is going to,
So this is a system you didn't previously have? This is a whole new,
this is a whole new. And we're gonna own it. We could hire an engineering company to do it, but they'd probably charge us like $30,000 to do it, and they own it.
no, I'm
So,
just trying to
no.
understand what the
Oh, I'm
need is to
just-
have
I'm
it in
explaining it to you.
March as opposed to
So,
June.
so we're gonna own this thing. So we're just gonna buy the software. It's like $19,000. But then to get the engineers out here and to get all the data put in, it's all about, it's gonna take a long time to get all the data in. It's just isn't something that shows up, you load it in the computer and you're off and running. It's gonna take a lot of work to get all the data in.
So I'm just trying to simplify it. So Article 2 is about to borrow or transfer a sum of money to buy this
Surplus.
computer. So it's coming from surplus to pay for this computer modeling system. That's what this article is looking to do.
Correct.
Okay.
But it has multiple
That's it.
uses. It's not just,
You know, what Rick's trying to say too, we go out on a flushing program every year because we were getting complaints years ago with dirty water. So in the fall, the guys go out and they start flushing the mains. But once we put that Walnut Street tank up there, there was another 1 million gallons. So like Rick said, we don't know which way the water is flowing anymore. So the pipes aren't really getting clean anymore. So we're still, now we're getting complaints from the people. I got dirty water, it's coming through there, and we're out there flushing. And so with this program here, we can, like Rick was trying to tell you, we know what hydrants to start out. When we first started going to a flushing program, our engineer came out and he pointed it. We started near the tank and we worked ourselves out this way and going away from the tank. It was a certain way that we had to flush the mains. But now with that other tank, it's taken that program that we had and actually threw it out the window. So we're out there really spinning our wheels today, flushing mains and wasting water. So with this program, we can get cleaner water and cleaner pipes. So it's a must, and why we want to do it now, because it takes so long, Meredith, to get anything done today, you know? So time is the essence.
I'm personally frustrated with having to have another special town meeting. So that's where my questions are coming from.
Well, don't be too frustrated with this, because I'm frustrated too that we want to get this thing going offline, you know? I mean, I think.
Correct me if I'm wrong, I think.
Personally, like special town meetings, it's always like, geez, they're trying to sneak something in, you know? right? I mean,
I think
it's
it
true.
too, yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, we all
People say,
think it.
"Ah, there's the water department, there's the police department trying to get something like it because nobody comes to a special town meeting.
Right.
But it takes so long to get everything going here. And
We were waiting, we used every drop of surplus, if you remember, from the last annual town meeting to pay off short-term debt.
Right.
We didn't have any projects. We had nothing.
So
Okay,
is
we just-
that, is that why we didn't do this, like, we had a special town meeting, when was that?
In the
Not that
fall.
long
We
ago,
didn't,
right?
we didn't know that we had a surplus.
Okay.
We didn't know we had a surplus. So now we know, then we found out we had a surplus. We said, oh, so we could continue on with the project. We didn't have enough money to go on with the project.
Okay.
So now we have the money and we need the money, we need the water in the spring. When everybody starts getting their gardens going, you may not have enough water to keep the town going. So we want to get this project going. It's a shame, we got a bucket full of money over here, and we're not gonna have any water. People are gonna say, how come I don't have any water? Well, we got the money, but we just,
Can't spend.
we can't spend it yet. We gotta wait till special town meeting, and we gotta wait till annual town meeting.
It strikes me that the most important one is number one.
That's it.
yeah.
We're there already at the town meeting. You got these other few
Right.
you want to put in there, so.
And then, well, the other one is important. They're gonna do a flyover, and they're gonna do the Article number 3, and that's coming up very soon, and they're gonna use a high definition
One of those
camera.
drones,
So the
yeah.
town's gonna pay half, we're gonna pay half. So, we can't wait to annual town meeting, because the flyover will probably be over by then, because they'd have to do it before the leaves come out.
Fly over to do what? What are they?
The GIS system is a computer database that keeps track of all the different trees, different signs,
Yeah, we
all the
all
different
use it,
things that are
different
where they're
departments, so-
plotted. So if they do the flyover, they can map more
Conservation
things
uses
out.
it, yeah.
Very important.
It's actually integral to the town.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We got about $1 million invested in it. And the assessors can, with a high definition, can look right down and see if somebody put a deck on or anything like that. They can see, everything.
Wait a minute, that means I can't lie, cheat, and steal anymble?
you-
Cross it out.
Looks into the basements.
Yeah. Article,
Curtains closed.
Basements are full.
They're getting ready to throw us out of here, Rick.
yeah, I know. Article number 4, Badger meter. We bought, I don't know, $800,000 worth of meters, and we drive around town, and they work great. The only thing is the software back in the office needs to be upgraded, because they're charging us $200 an hour to help us, work on it. So we got to buy the software. It's $21,918. So it just goes along with the $800,000 that we spent on the meter system. So we stretched it as far as we could without buying it, because we had the old version, but now we got to buy the newer one they got us. So we don't have a choice.
All right. Does anybody have any other questions?
Thank you very much for the detailed explanations.
I'll just quickly,
Not being a
I'll be
water
really
expert.
quick, on the Article 1, Station 1.
He will be quick.
When
Yeah, but it's
the
not-
Manley Street station that I talked about, the 3200 valve, when that went down, another station failed right behind it, so I was left with one station to run on. We actually went behind on a water deficit. So I didn't get much sleep, but we caught up and I got repairs done in time to bring it back on. That's the need for
What
the
does that
multiple
mean, Wayne?
stations.
The
It's
deficit?
redundancy to the system.
What did that mean? The
It means
deficit?
that I wasn't producing enough water for what the town
The
was
town-
using in the wintertime.
There's
So I could have turned on, nothing would have been there.
6.5 million gallons
Yeah, that's,
in the year.
Not very much.
And the town was using more than he was able to pump.
Wow.
That's scary.
That is,
why
So
we
you
need
were,
the
you were
stations
using
in the water.
water off the tank. And when it went to a certain level, you would have started to see low water pressure.
And that's in the wintertime use, not
So
in
that's
summer.
why
Not
we're
even
trying to get station number 1 up and running, because spring and summer are right here. We use a lot of water in April and May when they start putting their gardens in. And then in August, you start dropping back because people give up.
I know. Just let the tomatoes die.
Yeah.
9% last year.
Thank you guys for coming in.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm exhausted.
I just learned a lot.
He's not on the payroll.
He's not on the payroll. No, he's a water commissioner now. He's not the superintendent anymore. He's He's not on the payroll.
He does it for free?
Yeah, it's just a small, he gets elected, there's a small stipend. Hi, Ellen, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Interesting.
You remember David Church?
Yes,
Hello.
hello.
And this is my new assistant director, Jed Phillips.
Hi, nice to meet
Oh,
you.
again.
I remember when we talked about the line item to get you hired last year.
Yes.
Yes.
We have a line item.
Jed has been here 5 weeks, and he's improved our communication. He's centralized our scheduling and our calendar. He's started these whole series of adult programs. I mean, it's just been fabulous. So,
I saw the other day.
he set up a game card for kids in the afternoon, which has meant the noise and behavior has just gone completely down.
Really?
Everyone
Oh.
is settled. What a relief.
Can you come to my house? I need help with that.
I know. I've got a little, you know me, I love my little sheets of paper, so if you don't mind passing those down. These are just some interesting statistics from the library that,
The library is doing lots of amazing things.
oh, good. Well, David, this is a fresh copy, one that you don't have from last night. I gave the selectmen one of these, but then this is an improved copy.
And there's
from last-
statistics. This is amazing. Look at
Yes.
this. How many people came in, the increase,
Yeah, it's been
number
really,
of book
well,
checkouts.
you know, and
Wow, this is fantastic.
yeah, I thought you'd find it interesting, as number crunchers that you are.
We are.
I feel in some ways like, yeah, it's exciting, we're doing all sorts of exciting, cool stuff. But there was also just, I think we were sitting on an untapped level of demand that wasn't being met. So by, opening things up a little more, people are coming in and using our resources. So it's a combination of things. Okay, so anyway, just quickly to go through this total number of visits. This is from every July, the state requires us to submit what's called the ARIS report, which is like statistics on everything they're doing all year long. So I just pulled from the ARIS report from last July, which was FY 2017, and then the previous year. So we've got those increases. Now, what I'm we're pretty excited about is check out the sort of the salmon row right below that. So this is comparison between just February alone of 2017 to February alone 2018, and we've had 47% increase in traffic just in
Wow.
1 month.
That's huge.
It is pretty
Is that
huge.
program driven, you think?
No, we have done some programming, but not all that much. I
The
think it's just,
advertising's been good.
Yeah,
Been-
we've done the
been a
email
lot
blast.
of positive vibes coming out of the
People
library.
looking around.
and
lot
the
of
thing, the other
communication.
thing that I did was I divided the building. It's a fabulous space, it's so movable. And I decided, if you come in the front door, everything to the right will be allowed to have a certain noise level of activity. Everything to the left will be quiet, study, serious,
Traditional
focused, concentrated
library.
work. And I really think that has been a big draw. We're finding more older high school kids coming in to actually study in the afternoon, which we were really thrilled about because, when the middle schoolers were running rampant, it was like, who wants to be here? I don't kind of thing. And even adults are staying through the afternoons because we've mapped out places where you can do quiet, focused work at any time of the day. So I think that cost us nothing. It just was a matter of looking at the space and figuring that out. But I think that has really driven a lot of our foot traffic because people are coming in, but they're staying,
Right, right.
which is kind of cool.
May I ask, how do you measure the amount of people that come through? Is it like touch points of who checks out books?
You
checks
hit
out
a real
books
sore
plus-
point.
Okay.
We tried a people counter last year, and it was an absolute mess.
Okay.
We're just doing hashtags at the circulation desk. We're physically counting them.
Oh, wow.
And so if a kid leaves and comes back, we don't count that because he's been in before.
Oh, wow.
The
Okay.
people counter had the opposite effect. Every time you touched the door, the people counter would count. It was just insane. We borrowed it
Oh,
from.
it's too much. Okay.
Yeah, so we're going to Jed has some ideas about things we can do to get a more
Okay.
accurate count. If
you.
anything, I feel like our counts, because they're hashtags, and you're just
Price lower, right?
lower than they really are, because
You don't
people are
wanna
running around
count.
doing things, so.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
yeah.
an excellent, excellent question,
I
though.
remember actually a day that you literally went around and counted
Yes.
kids. Counted 75 kids in the library.
Oh, yeah, that's
That
right.
one- oh,
Yeah,
wow,
that's
that's
right.
On
fantastic.
Monday. I volunteer
Yeah.
every Monday.
David's there every
She
Monday.
went around
Wow.
and 75 kids in the library. And this is, what, 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is
They're
good.
not waiting for parents necessarily.
Well, I mean,
but
some of them are. Some of them are, but as long as they're quiet and talking, I mean, it's a social time. We don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
As long as they're
Another thing I
behaving in a civilized way.
And, yeah.
Another thing I found is, like you said, well, up to the right is the kids using the STEM computers now. There's laptops on a table, and when I was there last Monday, 4 kids were there. I got there at 2:30, and they were still there at 3:30.
Wow.
Yeah. So
That's
it's been really
fantastic.
fun.
Being quiet.
Good. Excellent.
Kids,
All right.
yeah, and so anyway,
Let's get to the numbers.
Get back to the budget itself. So I'm actually really proud of this budget. You'll see some differences from last year, one of which I called Kathy Reed, the accountant, to say, I really want a separate line for Jed's position so you can track it. And I don't want to put it in with the clerical salaries because
Right,
it's different.
not.
Right.
So that's a difference. But if you look at the total clerical and assistant department head taken together, it's still only a 3% increase because of the, we've had a lot of movement of positions and retirements and stuff like that. So I'm proud of that. And I kept some lines at 0 increase. Electricity, I just feel like we've had enough money in there, in that part of the budget. And the other thing with that is that I said to the selectmen last night, in the spring and fall, I'm really trying to open the windows. So we turn the system off and open the windows and then close them at night. And number one, fresh air, good circulation. The ventilation, I think, is in some ways better when it's coming down that side. But I mean, that's saving electricity. Okay. Some of these have gone up a little bit. The property maintenance, we've got some HVAC and some electrical upgrades that we need to do. The high-speed internet access is going up a bit, but not that much. And I'll tell you, that money we spent, was it 2 years ago, was so well spent. I mean, our broadband is incredibly fast, so we're paying for the Comcast line with that. I increased office supplies by 18% because I had to throw another 1,000 in there. It was chronically underfunded, and we were taking from other places. Materials, okay, so materials has always been, a question. I went up 2% out of the town operating funds for materials, because as you remember, we're required to spend 16% of our budgets in order to, apply for state grants. Because our circulation went up, 28 to 30%. But what we're doing then, and I want to be more and more transparent with you guys as the years go on, is the state grants. If you look at the bottom of the page, in order to reach 73% of the budget, $73,000 is 16% of our budget, and that's what we have to spend in order to get the
state
LSTA
grant.
money. But I'm going to take, this year, we only took $2,000 out of the state grants, and I'm going to up that this year to $4,000, just because I think that's being more responsible to the town. We get $8,000 so far. We get $8,000 a year when we kind of do the right thing and, have the right numbers and are open the right hours and all those kinds of things. And so what I'm presenting to you here is spend half of it on materials, and then the other half we will be spending on things like programs. I mean, there's no money here for programs at all, and we rely on the Friends of the Library, but they're also kicking in $3,000 for materials. So, but then, we can spend the state money for that. And as time goes on, I want to be more and more transparent with you over those grants. So I will always probably have this little extra bit at the bottom here for you to see. But all told, I'm only increasing the budget, with all that change that we've taken place this year, I'm only asking to increase the budget by 3%.
That's what the clerical increases were?
The clerical
On a
increase
sort
is
of a
gonna be-
net basis, 3%?
Yeah, well, the clerical increase is going to be 2.5%, we hope, but the union contract has not been signed.
Right.
So that's still a little bit up in the air. Anybody have any questions about that or anything else?
No, I don't think so. It looks like you're providing the same level of service and had to increase funds a little bit in order to maintain that. You've listed out some of the grants. Do you have other funds available? I know you have Friends of the Library
Yes.
that tick in. Are there any other revolving accounts?
We
that-
have the revolving account, which is actually on here too. The revolving account is I think it's Article 12 on the annual town meeting warrant, which allows us to keep up to $12,000 of fines and fees when people return books late and et cetera, et cetera. Because of the direction borrowing is going, more and more online, that amount is diminishing, which is a great thing for our patrons. Because it means that people don't have to, because in other words, if you're downloading a book, it just falls off.
Right.
You never have to pay an overdue fee.
Right.
So the only time you have to pay a fee or a fine is when a physical book is forgotten or you've left it in the car, Anyway, so that amount has been slowly decreasing. And I know my budget person is like, oh my God. I said, no, that's okay, because the less we have to collect on fees and fines, the better, so as far as I'm concerned. But for right now, 4,000, I think we have about $6,000 to $7,000 in there right now. But we used to have much more, and so it's gone down. And as I said, I'm not actually all that unhappy about that. I just think that's good time. That's good service. I do want to spend out of the revolving account, $4,000 for professional development. I mean, I have a staff that is not used to going to classes. They're not used to going to professional meetings. They're not used to, conferences and stuff like that, and I really feel it's important. This didn't cost us any money, but two of my staff who've never been to anything, Michelle, I shouldn't say that. Michelle has gone to a few things. Michelle Sheehan, who's our circulation supervisor and incredibly good at that, and our financial coordinator, Beth Awald, both went up to the State House on Tuesday. They prepared and they lobbied for library services. Sales took a bus, whoever wanted to go. You usually have drag people. Michelle and Beth were so excited to go to the State House. And they made appointments with our reps, and they had a folder full of material about our library, and they showed them this. And they said, support the library line items in the state budget. And then, they had it was a whole day of events. And they got a huge kick out of it. They came back with all sorts of pictures and, autographs and stuff like that. So even though that's not a conference, they were both they seemed to be tickled to go. So I think that really, that develops people's sense of ownership and professionalism about their jobs.
All right. Does anybody have any other questions on this budget? Yeah, it seems nice and straightforward and detailed.
Yeah.
No questions?
No.
All right. I think we're all set
Good job.
with you. Yeah, that's
so much.
fantastic.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Welcome
Thank
again.
you for coming in.
This is really helpful,
Statistics are
I figured you'd like that.
Get us excited.
Good to see you too.
Thank you.
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Okay.
Take
Good
care.
night. Thank you for coming in. All right. The next one we're gonna do. Hi, how are you?
Good. How you guys doing?
Doing well.
All right.
Staying busy these days?
Yes.
Spending money.
Yep, like crazy.
All right, we're moving on to budget 1410 for the assessors. All right,
You want me to go over a couple things on you?
I'd like you to tell us about the changes.
Mostly the highlights, yeah.
Yeah, sure. You see, if you have the budget in front of you, for the assessors, FY18, we had approved 230,866. For FY19, we're requesting 235,870. So roughly, it's less than a 2% change or a 2% increase.
That's not the same amount I have. I have 235,170.
I'm sorry, what did I say?
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
Did you round it?
235,170.
170, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's my bad, I apologize.
No, that's all right.
Yeah. The big changes in that were the, our,
It looks like the appointed official?
yeah, he came under, he went on full-time in FY18 under contract. In FY18, the salary negotiated was $70,000.
Which was below market, wasn't it? I think I remember meeting with John and
Yes.
discussing that
Yeah.
that it was a low salary.
Well, not real low, but low. 'Cause,
Well-
we took it upon ourselves to, we did a salary survey of the area. And plus what I do for a living, I'm out, I do that. I'm talking to these people all the time. And I found, I know one town adjacent to Brockton, they've gone through 3 or 4 principal assessors in 2.5 years. Mostly, they were a low-end town, and they really, you kind of get what you pay for. People coming in those low-paying, it's a good position, but when they come in and they lack experience that you need these days, especially with the Department of Revenue and the way they're cutting down on their personnel and how they're handling recertification, you have to kind of come in knowing, at least something about it. So it's my feeling that you get what you pay for. Under that, guys, we said we'll come in below market the first year, because it was the first year of a full-time position, and then we'll see, how that's working out.
Bring it to the
And
market,
I'll tell you about
right.
that in a second. So we brought it up, we're proposing for FY19, 82,000.
Now, where is that in line with the market?
It's more in line.
Okay.
But one thing to remember too is that when this was negotiated, I'm not sure how many other department heads in town or full-time contractual people, he's not taking the insurance benefit. So that probably, what is that, 6, 8, 10,000? I'm not really
All
sure.
that.
Yeah. So that's just something, to put to the left here for a second. I wish really there was something, like, when I go to town meeting and talk to you guys, that, I think do a good job, but sometimes it's tough, when people come in certain departments, it's tough to understand, what's behind the scenes here. And in our case, we've had, since John went on full-time, before I did it myself without being paid, I didn't mind doing it, but just, I'm too busy.
Right.
John's gone in, for one thing, to merit his pay. He's gone into Boston a couple times for us to the appellate tax board. I'm not saying we have a large case coming up where it's assessed at 17 million. He'll assist, but we might go outside, we're not sure. But the smaller cases, he's able to go out and gather data, do a lot of research, and go it himself.
And he wasn't able to do that before because
Not
his
part-time,
hours were so
yeah.
short. I remember we had
Absolutely,
this
yeah.
discussion.
And
That it was lost.
absolutely, and plus, he's taking on, he's doing a lot of for the town, a lot of the GIS stuff.
Right.
And then something I didn't realize too, when we were talking about this last year, is that John told me, and I know somebody in the Department of Revenue, I mentioned last night to the selectmen, they've cut down on their people that go out and approve tax rates and certifications, and it's become a lot more accelerated through IT process and that such. So it's become more intense with them, and they're looking for a lot more in a lot less time. In the old days, they came in with 18 people, they'd be like an army here for
It's
6
the
months.
same thing with tax returns
Yeah,
with the
everything.
state.
Yeah, so,
Everything has to be done faster
so,
and shorter time.
coming in here on this job or any job, you have to kind of come in on your feet and run with it. So John's doing an excellent job of that. So between that and, obviously handling all the, the personal property stuff, the office staff, setting the tax rate, and, and like I mentioned last night, my biggest thing with the job is, I've been doing it so long, is we're in charge of an important line item, the overlay account. It pays for the exemptions, the seniors, the abatements and such. And that's kind of our check and balance, that if we don't run a deficit, if it's, if it's an overlay or surplus every year, at least we're trying to, at least from my standpoint, we're hopefully doing our job downstairs there. So between all that and John's appearances in town, and, sometimes with these smaller guys that have these downtown attorneys, they don't mind if they go in to build up their fees, so sometimes we don't have any choice going in, and he's doing a good job of that. So that, in my opinion, that kind of merits the raise coming up to somewhat more market-wise.
Have we seen a dollar figure on any of these cases yet, or the?
Well, Yeah, plus, for the fact is that I'm from the old school, and anytime we settle these, like last night we settled one, for like $1,200. I told them, no, I haven't waived the interest. That saves the town. The interest now that was set back in 1980, if you get, if you're late for your bill, they charge you 14%. But if you are owed money, you can request interest, and it's 8%. So some of these bigger cases, I say, we'll settle this or that, short bill, but you also have to waive the interest. So this one here, now I just go about my business. Anybody that comes in with John, and we haven't waived the interest. And answer the question, Mo, is that it's tough to. I could do a backtrack on it, but for example, if we're going to bring someone in to do a larger case, the appraisal in say not outside attorney, but appraisal can be between $8,000 and $15,000. I've just done one myself for a different. I'm representing a different community, and it's expensive. It's portal to portal, time in there, blah blah. So there's a lot of time that's other than just the appraisal and outside attorney for special case. So it's tough to put a figure on it, but most assuredly that between when he was part time till a couple of years forward, when he's been full time, we've had a chance to look at it. We'll see that it's
We
definitely.
just lost those cases before.
Well, we didn't lose them, but
Have time to examine.
I didn't want to
That's
go in on
right.
the
Yeah,
guy. We let go of the guy. So sometimes you're right. Sometimes we kind of cave a little bit without letting them know that we're caving.
Right.
Sometimes we said, we'll have to go in, and depending on what it is, if it's pro se, they don't go in. No, we have to go in and be prepared. I've gone in before, and we do a pretty good job. There's a lot of good data, but the question is finding the time to prepare it and get it to Boston.
Right. Right.
All right, so that $12,000 is an increase to his salary. What's the next line, the decrease of $9,500?
We had it worked out as far as a short increase of less than 2%. We had a long-standing, an excellent clerical person go to another department. And she was, here for 12, 13 years, so she was up as far as her title and her salary, probably at the max. And we brought in a replacement at the lower end. I'm not sure if it's what exactly the savings at the low end, but for the year, it's running, a little over $9,000, I think it was. So with John going up 12 and the change in clerical staff, it worked out for this year, the increase was less than 2%, 9,500, right? So those two things, as that goes, kind of benefited the department as far as our personal services go.
All right, looks like longevity's going up a little bit, but that's just people being here longer.
Right.
Now, scrolling down, contractual services is increasing by $395. That
Yeah.
seems, just bringing that more in line, is that
Yeah,
what you're
that's
doing?
what it is. I'm glad you brought that up because I want to say something something else that I think that is a feather in our cap, if you will, is that we've hired our revaluation firm for 3 more years, Patriot Properties. And we've kept the meat of that of that bid of that contract at $20,000 a year. For actually, all the valuation of houses,
Right, it would be
right?
on there every year,
Right.
I remember
What went
this.
up there slightly was it's almost like extortion, but when you use them, you got to buy to use their
website,
right,
yeah,
their
portal.
data, right, and all their IT stuff. There's a license fee, and every year there's a slight increase. It's called CAM, Computer Assisted Mass Appraisal, and the increase there is $395.
Okay,
But the meat of that stayed at 20, and it'll be that way for 6 years, which I think is excellent.
good, okay. And equipment replacement, it looks like you're looking for $1,000 more.
Yeah, I'm not sure, I'm not really in tune with that on a per, item basis, but it'd be for the usual, we're updating any desk furnishings for the clerical staff, and maybe, I don't know if we're in line for a new computer or something. We put that increase in there along with, it's like I'm not really sure, the engineering, we have to go out to bid. So a couple of those things, it's not an exact amount, but we are requesting that.
All right.
Right.
So you're not increasing any services, you're not, this is all just level
Not
funding?
yet, yeah. I wouldn't dare, it costs too much money,
Now, this is a question I've been asking each of the department heads. What do you see your need being in 3 years? The town's growing, what infrastructure needs are you going to have?
Well, I'm fairly confident that there's probably a lot of needs, like every other department. For us, there's been a lot of talk about, our IT possibilities and the the Mass had, the Commonwealth has an excellent overseer, they call Oliver. It's a Mass GIS system, and every town is different as far as their compliance. Some towns only have certain, if you want to call it layers. Other towns have a lot more, depending on the flyovers and what they have. I know when I do my work in different communities, like, I go into some of those communities and the Mass GIS has done my job for me as far as all that stuff goes.
Oh,
you know.
okay.
So we're looking maybe to improve on that. And eventually, if we have the money to put the our maps, online, we've now put our property record cards
Right,
online.
which is good, yes.
So in over a 3-year, looking forward period, it would be probably, from our standpoint, a small department, probably more, IT, technology oriented.
Okay, no, that's very, yes, John.
Could I add, we need to take new photographs of all the structures in town too. That would probably be a capital project.
Now, is that something that Patriot Properties does, or that's something that the Board of Assessors is responsible
We
for?
would use a vendor,
Oh, okay, okay.
not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Right.
You can hire somebody to do that, yeah. It wouldn't be a real big job, but, we could see the price on them and hiring, somebody on a part-time, no benefit basis to go out and pay attention to it gets a little tricky, but that could be done either way. Whatever the cost benefit
Water
is.
department's doing a flyover, it's not,
Yeah, well,
you couldn't use that
No, that's
data?
the top view. We need a street
Okay.
view.
we want street side. Right now, some of these communities, you can, like in Avon, you can't get a street side, so it depends, each community is different.
You can't get it on Google?
No, believe me.
right?
And sometimes,
Is it
believe it or not, they're off a
dated,
block or two, believe me.
It is close to
Trust
the
me.
technology. It would
Yeah.
probably be someone driving
Oh,
a
that's
vehicle
all
down the
kind
street
of-
with a 360-degree camera.
Like, for example, too, the things that'd be great is, in the city of Boston, if you go into a property, you can look at all the building permits that have been issued for the property. They've been scanned in from the last 70 years. A property I looked at had 170 permits sitting there in the file that I could look at. So something like that down the road, to pay for that venture would be a lot of money, but it's somewhere that, I'd like to
Right,
see in the
because-
future.
yeah.
So a taxpayer can look at, what's done with this, or the assessor or the appraiser.
That's
That'd be a
very
big benefit.
fair, thank you. All right, does anyone have any other questions on this budget?
No, looks good.
Yeah, no, seems straightforward enough to me. Then I think that's it for you guys. Thank you very much
Beautiful.
for coming in.
Thanks,
Yeah, thank you very much.
You guys doing a great job, keep it up, thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. I'm telling you, I know,
I do too. My wife was on the finance committee in my town for a number of years.
So you have to listen to
You do a job that a lot of people don't appreciate.
If they don't understand.
And by saying that, you'll recommend favorably our budget, so, good night.
It is a lot.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for coming in. Good night.
Thank you. Good evening.
You as well.
Thanks, John.
David.
Are you okay if I do the rest of the small budgets from here, or do you want me to go over this?
No, there's fine.
Hot
Yeah,
seat, come on.
let's get through this.
Yeah, because just from a timing standpoint,
Yeah.
they're all small budgets, they're all
Yeah.
pretty simple, they're basically all volunteer committees, so. Jake, can you pick me up okay?
You?
You want
Yes,
me-
he can.
Is that better?
That works. Okay, all right, so, first one is Economic Development Commission,
1965.
1965.
Now, is this the one that's not really active?
Yeah, they don't do anything.
So they haven't been active for a couple of years. We used to fund them at about $6,500. We've cut them back the last couple of years to $3,700. Obviously, if we don't use the money, it just falls back to the taxpayer because it goes back to free cash at the end of the year. I've said this now 2 years in a row, we really need to get this committee up and running.
gonna ask you
Unfortunately,
that, yeah.
we just, we lobby people. The problem with a small town is that you have so many people that are willing to raise their hand and volunteer. And so if you look across our committees, in fact, one is sitting here in front of you, is that a lot of people are on multiple committees, which is Mo. We don't have enough people, and so it's a struggle. But my fear is that if we decide not to fund this, which we could easily do, then really what our message is that we don't want to have an economic development commission. And it doesn't make any sense. And especially you got a $33 million budget, $3,700 doesn't move the needle. What we really need to do is not worry about the money or focus on the money. What we really got to do is focus on getting people to do the committee. And so anyway, so we level funded at $3,700, and again, it's not like if we don't spend it, then it just goes back. Next budget is town council, 1510. Town council is overseen by me and the Board of Selectmen.
I would imagine this one's gone up, right?
Yeah, but you know what, we still do a lot of work in-house, Mary.
Oh, okay.
So at this point, although I am a little bit concerned about it, you know, since I've been here, we've never gone over that budget. And you'll probably remember, we used to go over $100,000, it used to
Every
be
year.
$100,000.
Yeah, every year.
So we level funded at 87,000, and we're not looking for an increase on that.
Okay.
The next budget is veterans, which is 5430.
Now, this is based on how many veterans move in and out of the town, so we have no control over this.
We don't. I'll call your attention to line 5777. You will see that basically every line on here has been level funded except for the clerical, which is a contractual contract. We had a couple of veterans, or one in particular, move into town a couple of years ago. We had increased the benefit payout. It used to be closer to 30,000. We increased it to 45, and unfortunately, that person passed away. So obviously, we didn't have any control over that. We didn't spend the money. The money goes
Right.
back to the taxpayer at the end of the year. So we may look at this line. I've already been in touch with my Veterans Services agent. I'm going to wait until April. If there is nobody else that looks like is going to be involved, then we may cut that line back, because at this point, we really don't need to fund all of it if there's nobody there. One thing to keep in mind is that we do receive 75% of what we pay out from the state on an annual basis. So they will send us back, if we spend 75,000, then they will send us back 75% of that money sometime during the course of the following 6 months. But it's always looking back. And that money does not replenish the budget, it goes directly into the general fund.
Is that just for that line?
Yeah, just for that line. So to keep the money easy is if we spend 40, the following year we would receive 30,000, that would go directly into our general fund. That's why you have to fund this line, we can't self-fund out of it.
Right.
Other than that, the budget is basically full.
So the 75% that's returned to us is only based on line 5777?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Next budget is Cable TV Committee, it's 1560. We obviously run a local cable station. That local cable station is basically funded through a fee that is on everybody's cable bill. The $1,100 is actually what pays people like Jake. Jake, it doesn't?
No, that's not me. It's other volunteers.
Oh, okay, all right, okay.
I'm not on that
Because
budget.
because you just became the part-time, right. It used to pay for you. But yes, it pays for the people who normally sit in that seat that are not considered, that are traditional staff. So it was Ben, you all know Ben Smith, and then they just brought Jake on as a part-time employee. So he's being paid for out of the Comcast budget, or out of the money we receive out of those fees. The $1,100 goes for other people who come in and volunteer. So that's just level funded year over year.
All right, 1750 is planning.
And the planning board, again, is just level funded except for the contractual increases for the clerical person and her respective longevity.
Now, I would think this board's meeting more often with all of the growth in town.
They are, so that's why last year there was, I don't want to say a sizable bump, but we used to have the clerical person in there at an average of 10 hours. We then had to bring it to 11. Last year we brought it to 12, and this year we budgeted her at 12 hours as well. So, so we haven't increased the hours, but you're absolutely right. You know, I will say this, because we normally wouldn't ask this question in reference to a smaller budget, but in reference to Meredith's traditional question about what you see, this is my number 2 priority for staffing needs going forward. The town needs to hire at least a part-time, but we need to hire a professional planner. Somebody that helps the planning board, that somebody helps the zoning board of appeals. We get frustrated, for example, of 40Bs. That person would be able to help to write some regulations that maybe we could get something passed at the state level. But our boards are so busy right now, and unfortunately is, I don't want to say a driving force because that would be too strong of a word, but we do spend about $3,000 to $4,000, maybe $5,000 a year on legal fees because the boards have complex issues in front of them. And they don't have any professional staff to help them. Quite frankly, they usually do something, and then there's a threatening of
There's a problem later.
Yeah, there's a problem. And then all of a sudden, we get it into my office, usually from their lawyer, and then we have to get involved at that point. You know, and obviously, I just can't be at every single meeting.
Right.
So we are gonna have to look at that. There's no doubt, we are really benefiting because we have not had to raise it 2.5 now for 4 years. And that's really because of growth. We've done a good job with our budgets, but it's because of growth. That's the positive to growth. The negative is that you need to have somebody manage it. And so we really are gonna have to look at hiring a planner. Those boards are gonna need help, and I will tell you, indispensable is Bill Lucini and Hugh Hurley. Not to say that the other members aren't important, because Jim Noyes is great on the planning board, but those two people collectively between them have over 60 years of experience as chairs on their respective boards, and it's only because they are there that we haven't run into this problem even more. But they're both in their mid to high 60s. They're not going to be there forever. We need to make sure we get somebody on professional staff with the amount of subdivisions and the subdivision growth.
So you said that, sorry, that was your number 2 priority for
Yeah.
staffing. What's the number 1?
HR.
HR. Yeah, which I'll HR, which is what I'll discuss when we get to the Board of Selectmen's budget. We haven't budgeted for it this year, but I have talked to the selectmen. That's probably going to be something I'll be looking at next year.
I was going to say that, the town's financially stable. We have income. Why would we delay doing this necessarily? We're not talking millions of dollars or.
Because we're still trying to be frugal. There's no other answer to that. We're trying to be frugal. Next one is Board of Appeals. They do a similar job as the planning board. They have oversight for new construction in town. We have what they call planning board site plan review, and usually zoning board of appeals is dealing with more variances. So for example, you want to build a deck off your house. We have setback requirements that you can't go within 20 feet of your sideline, and your deck is going to be 18 feet. I mean, is that a real hardship to the town? Of course not. But you would have to file with the zoning board of appeals and get approvals. And, some people get frustrated by that, but the reason all of this exists is because many decades ago, somebody would build right up to the 1-inch line on one side, a 1-inch line on the other side, and then all of a sudden you have a fire. And think about the issues with that. So, so that's why we have variances and we have setbacks in town, but in reasonable cases, we make variances, and we do that through the zoning board of appeals.
Okay.
And again, they're level funded. The only difference that you will see on that one, the rent control board one that will be the next one, that is level funded as well. That's 3652. They oversee the rent control for both mobile home parks. I will skip 88 for a second. I'll do municipal building needs because I just want to group them all together.
Which is 1945.
1945. Municipal building needs, we fund their budget through a town meeting warrant article every year or every other year. We give them basically a pot of money, and what they do is they oversee any emergency repairs for buildings. So for example, the Howard School this past year, 2 months ago, their heater broke, and it was right in the middle of January, and nobody wants to spend money, but we all need to have heat. So they end up going to the municipal building needs, and they ended up having to put a new heater system in. So that's what they oversee. And that's level funded as well. But I wanted to group Board of Appeals, Rent Control Board, and Municipal Building Needs together just for one item. You will see in all 3 of them, there are part-time secretaries. They all make about $14, $15 an hour. They don't work a lot of hours. They are non-union, non-contractual employees. So about a month from now, the Board of Selectmen will take a blanket vote, and they usually give what they're giving to the union. So we'll come back, probably add 2.5% to those lines at that point. And again, based on the minimum amounts that they're making, I mean, sometimes it's silly, but it's $70 or $80 a year. But I just want to call your attention to it. And then the last one is 1920 ADA Compliance Committee. They don't have a secretary, so that's why I left them separate, but we only fund them at $500 a year, and it's level funded year over year.
All right, so we talked about the warrant articles with the water department. I didn't get what the need was to have a special town meeting now as opposed to waiting till June.
Obviously, they can answer it better than I think Mo kind of hits on it, is I think their number one, the first article, well, actually, the first and the third. The first article, they believe, is imperative. So once you have it, you just kind of piggyback on the others. They had discussed with us about the GIS flyover, and the last GIS flyover we did was about 10 years ago, and you always want to do it prior to the leaves coming on the trees, because it's obviously not as effective. So I would say those two is what became sensitive to why they were trying to do it now instead of waiting until June.
I don't think
Is
you
it a
answered
big
it.
expense to the town to have the special meetings? I mean, we have to keep the school open and stuff, but
Yeah, no, it's not.
it's not
No,
really.
it's just a time commitment.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's twofold. It's a time commitment, but also,
It's a lot of people who have to commit to it, though.
there is. I mean, trust me, in the middle of the budget season, I hate having a
It's the last
special
thing
town
you need,
meeting.
yeah, right.
You know, last year with the golf course, I swore I was never gonna do it again.
Right.
But it is what it is. And look, this is our form of government. So when we need to do something, and it's something that we can't do through our boards and committees, we call a town meeting. So, you know, that's the way it works. It is frustrating because there are some people that this is their Christmas season, if you will. This is my budget season, so it's very difficult. The schools are busy. I mean, almost every single night they have something going on. So for them to parcel out a night for town meeting, that's difficult on their part. So it really is the time.
That's the impact to all the departments and the
Correct.
people that have to participate.
Yeah, so it's from a timing standpoint. From a money standpoint, you're talking $500, $600, $700. It's not a lot of money from that standpoint.
All right, does anybody have anything else they want to bring before the committee? Not hearing any. Does anyone want to make a motion? Let me just mention the next meeting is, well, next week, Wednesday.
No, well.
Well, the town meeting is Wednesday, right?
Yeah, the town meeting is
Yeah.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
So I was going to interject because I just want to remind you that next Wednesday when we have town meeting, it starts at 7, but we always post you for 6:30 because you're going to have to take an official vote on all of your warrant articles because you're going to do that tonight.
Yeah, we can't participate.
It'll be whether or not that subcommittee is appointed you. Hopefully they have,
Okay.
but it's, you know, I have no jurisdiction.
No, I
They're
completely
entirely.
understand.
But if they
So we
need.
wouldn't,
Okay.
okay.
It didn't want to, I lived in Osceola the last time, and I was like, okay, yeah, I understand, and then it's just, I don't want to get there and be like, oh, no.
I know, we'll do the best to
That's fine. No, no.
communicate it to,
And,
When is our next meeting for this one?
the next Thursday,
Next Thursday, which is what?
the 15th.
And there's a listing of everyone's contact information. I just noticed my email was spelled wrong. Does anyone have any other edits?
Isn't it Aunt Mary or something?
Auntie Mary,
There we go. I
yeah.
couldn't forget that.
If you don't mind, if you want to change it, and if you want to pass that around, or like
Yeah.
we'll do
Oh,
like one.
right, make sure it's in.
Your contact info, is that how we find
So if we're not sworn in yet, then
Well, you're
would
still
we
on
not
there.
go to the meeting?
You're more than welcome to go to the meeting
Oh,
because
okay.
it's a public meeting, but you
Right.
wouldn't be able to sit up with the finance committee because you're not a formal member.
Got it, okay, thank you.
But I just wanted to make sure that we know we'll be posting for 6:30, so you can take a formal vote. And if Meredith, if you don't feel like that's enough time, let me know, I'll post you a little earlier. The
No, I
meeting
think
starts
that
at
should be
7.
sufficient.
I
Yeah,
think so.
I think so.
But
I mean,
I-
we've all talked about it enough.
Okay.
Would anyone like to make a motion to close the meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, wait, we can't vote.
Yeah, I know. You know,